Uh, Hello, everybody, after the fact. Welcome to another episode of Modulator Bay, episode 12. And back again with Haze Anderson.
Howdy, howdy.
And and as always, I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. Nice
Yes.
shirt, by the
Oh,
way.
thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that. I love this shirt. It's not the best material, and it's very uncomfortable in the summertime because it's just one big polyester, print, and it just basically like it attracts sweat.
Well, my partner still has two of those original ones
Oh, nice.
in the box. I mean, not in their box, but in a box. So just being protected. But I don't know if we'll ever bring them out. But I much prefer using the modern technology as long as they bring back the retro games to play. But they don't always bring back the best ones.
Yeah, I think especially for the really, really old consoles, the emulators are just fine.
Hey,
They're
Inverted
pretty
Popes.
much 99.9% on. Hello, how you doing? From what I understand, it's the Nintendo 64 that has the hardest time being emulated. So if you can get your hands on a good Nintendo 64 console, probably want to grab one of those.
That makes sense. Things that usually things that had less games made for them was often for those reasons. Like nobody wanted to program for it because it was a different system, especially with Nintendo, and like the GameCube was the same thing.
Yeah, the GameCube was weird.
Yeah.
That one didn't take off too well.
And Saturn, Americans didn't want to program for it, so it took off in Japan, but not over here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
Saturn
could
was.
understand that though.
Yeah, it was 50-50 with what was the other one of the time? The PlayStation, I think, or the no, yeah, and that was after the TurboGrafx. But see, like I played the Saturn because we had this video game store that was like really cool and had import stuff, and you could they would mod the machines for you so you could play the games, the import games.
Oh, I see.
Or
Right.
they would like
right.
mod your machine, which voided the warranty, obviously, and it wasn't supposed to happen, I guess. But anyway, so like that allowed me to play all these Japanese games, but also the the Saturn game. My roommate had the Saturn, and you could play 8-player Bomberman. We were sitting there playing like 8-player Bomberman. You could play up to 10 players, and then there was this other one, Guardian Heroes or something like that. And it was like a side to side, sort of a team of people are all scrolling side to side and beating monsters along the way, but
Well, how do you
it's
hook
an
all,
arena.
How do you hook all those controllers into it?
Um, with an adapter.
Okay, it was like an expansion board for that.
yeah.
I get. Okay.
Yeah, it was just a little board thing. And it was the same with the Nintendo. You could get one that could do up to 4, I think.
Well, that's really cool. I had no
but
idea.
But yeah, that was a great party system just because of a couple games. But then there weren't that many games for it all told. So, but there were some that were only for Saturn, like the Saturn Bomberman. That was a great game to play with a bunch of people.
Never played that one. I definitely played Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that was cool.
Was that the Saturn?
That
I'm
was
thinking of
Sega.
the Sega.
Well,
that's
yeah, all the Sega systems had a Sonic. Yeah.
Gotcha. But no, I was playing on. Excuse me, I was playing on the Sega. I was not playing on.
Yeah, that is the Sega
yeah.
Saturn. But also
what it
before
is.
that, it was before that was the Sega CD, and then before that was the Master System, and
I had access to
then the Genesis before that.
one of the predominant video rental places in my hometown. They rented out consoles and games with them. So I worked for them, and they would let me rent out consoles for free. Just kind of take them home over the weekends when nobody was using them.
Cool.
And so yeah, that was the only time I really got to play some of those games. Otherwise, I mean, I kind of dropped out of consoles by the mid '80s and was just totally just into computers at that point.
Yeah, that's cool. I just happened to have a roommate in college who had a fetish for he would only get systems that were discontinued.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like rare and discontinued. So he had all these systems on. We had this big rack where it's like these storage racks like in sheds that you get, like these wire rack shelving systems, right?
Nice,
but,
yeah.
But we would have, like, in the living room, he would set it up so where he had like 10 monitors on all these racks.
Oh, good
and
Lord.
so that a video game system was on each monitor, and it was some old Japanese rare video game system like the PC 16 or something like that. Like
really
with
cool.
the old CD systems that they had before it was even 16-bit.
No, I did have a roommate in the early 90s in college, and he had the TurboGrafx 16.
Oh yeah, the TurboGrafx 16, that was great. Oh, and I was thinking
That
of the
was a great
PC
system.
98 before that.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
PC 98 didn't make it over here.
I don't think the TurboGrafx 16 did very well over here.
No.
I think it was maybe just too expensive. I don't know why.
Well, it was, yeah.
But I mean, it like, what's that one game? Sorry, you caught me off guard here. I was thinking about video games. The one that was, where you're go back to the Greek mythology and you're fighting zombies and wolves and you turn into the werewolf creature, and Altered Beast.
Oh yeah.
TurboGrafx 16 had the best Altered Beast on the market, hands down. And
Yeah.
there's a few other games that were pretty cool. Like the graphics were really, really fast. They were very responsive. Like everything moved all over the screen, a lot everywhere, and it didn't drag.
I never got to play it. Actually, I remember back then, I was Nintendo all the way and all through that era, but with me and my brother.
Never owned a Nintendo, but a lot of my friends had them, and I played a bunch of the games, played all the Marios, of course. Mario 64 is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I got all 120 stars on that one. I love that game.
Everybody does. Wow, that's just interesting.
It's a perfect game. I don't know how to explain it. It's...
I don't know. I was kind of frustrated and like feeling like it was glitchy and I couldn't deal with it sometimes.
Oh, I had
like
to
that.
overcome a lot of things. there was a lot, and that was one of the first games that really taught me like how to get good, kind of in a sense. I was really terrible at video games my whole life, even though I played a lot of video games. Like coin-op games, forget it. I didn't have any money anyway, so I couldn't afford to play coin-op games.
I used to cry. I used to just bawl as a little kid in like pizza parlors.
Couldn't play
because I'd put a quarter in and I'd start playing, and 20 seconds later, 30 seconds later, it'd be over, game over.
Yeah, I would mostly just watch other people play. Tempest was the game I wish I was really good at. And Robotron.
Yeah, Robotron. Yeah.
But hey, before we get talk about music and everything, there was a great documentary that came out a couple years ago called Insert Coin. And
yeah, I watched that. That's
awesome.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Not the best name in my opinion, but it makes sense when you think about it. It's like maybe it should be called keep inserting coins or something. Don't stop inserting coins.
Well, I really missed that. I have a lot of memories. And also when I went to Japan later on in my college days, and I was over there, I just spent months just every day going out into the city to their crazy game centers. I mean, we're talking like 8 stories, 10 stories of video games. Like, it's just like crazy stuff. But
can't even imagine.
And I would that was what I spent my money on over there. But it was also great to have a roommate in college that was into it. And then we also had the stand-up system of Super Sprint. I think it was.
I should know what that one is.
It actually had the wheels, the steering wheels, like the four steering wheels.
I was thinking like actually like sprinting like one of the Olympic Games or something, track and field.
No, it's just the top-down cars around the,
Oh, that one. Yes, I remember. Yes, the old school from the 70s, right?
80s, I think. But
I think that was
maybe
late 70s, actually.
Yeah, it was really early, actually, yeah.
I remember when I was still a kid in the late 70s, and video games were very much a thing back then. It's really easy to think that was just the 80s, but no, it's 70s, 77 is when it all
Yeah, I'm a
started.
little bit younger.
By 78 and 79, Space Invaders, Asteroids, Missile Command. Defender was 80, I think, 81 maybe. But
my first memories were of the Commodore 64 and Atari, and it's just like Pitfall. And going over to a friend's house, and they had Pitfall, and it was just the most mind-blowing thing ever.
Did you ever play Pitfall 2?
Well, no, I saw a friend had it. Yeah. I like watched it being played maybe for like 15 minutes of my life or something.
I couldn't get into Pitfall because I'm not really big on getting high score, and that's what the first one was all about. Was just getting the maximum score possible, which is really what the spirit of getting a high score, topping the crown in Donkey Kong games like that, for example. But Pitfall 2 was less about the score and more about almost like a role playing game. It was like an adventure. And the problem with Pitfall 2, though, was that the goal of the game was to find your niece and her pet monkey. They were trapped in the caverns. And that's the end of the game. All right. Well, I had an Atari 5200, which was a terrible console, by the way. Everything about the Atari 5200 was just awful, except for really one thing. Well, two things. One, you could play Montezuma's Revenge on it, which is one of the best games ever made of all time.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And the other one was that I think maybe only Commodore 64 was the other one that had this. But the Atari 5200 version of Pitfall 2 was the only one that had the complete game. There was a whole second half of the game that nobody else included.
Yeah, I don't remember which it was.
You get out of the caverns, which makes sense. Like once you find your niece and her pet monkey, now you've got to rescue them.
Yeah, okay, but the thing is, I did play a few of them now that I remember, but they blend together for me because there's Super Pitfall too.
Yeah, I'd never played that one. I don't know anything. Yeah,
and I think it goes deeper. It just seems like it goes deeper down, or like bigger caverns or something like that.
It's a different engine too. Like the cool thing about Pitfall 2 was it was pretty much the exact same engine, and of course, I mean, they could only put half of the game on the 2600. You could play Pitfall 2 on the 2600, of course.
No, they only pretty much seem to improve it conceptually.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Which is something that, Grand Theft Auto. I don't know if you ever played the Grand Theft Auto games or not.
Yeah.
Specifically,
the originals. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, starting with the 3 series. I tried to play the originals. I can't with the top-down bird's eye view.
They're so slippy.
I can't play them. Maybe I should try. Maybe I should get good or something. I don't know. But the 3 series, with, just Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, they all used the same engine, essentially. And I was okay when 4 came out with them having a new engine, but the game wasn't all that great. And then here comes along 5. Okay, so they're going to know they have a new engine again. You get to this point now to where developers, they just keep, we have to have a new engine. We just keep having to have a new engine for every new game. It's like, why can't you just use the old one and not make the graphics any better? Hang on. And make the game bigger.
Well,
instead of using that new extra space that you've got, the new processing power, to make it look better, give us a better experience.
Yeah. Well, at least GTA was better than most things out on the market.
San Andreas was amazing. I mean, to me, Vice City is probably my favorite, but I think that San Andreas is the better game.
No, for me, it was only I played all of them, but for me, it's only San Andreas and 5.
5 was okay. 5 has the best story, hands down. I think it just has the best story. I've never played a game like that where I was just like my jaw hit the ground.
It's pretty cool, but for me, it's just the terrain and the world that you get to run around in.
They really made that area look a lot like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
San Andreas was pretty good too. If you really know what to look for, you kind of realize, okay, I see what they're doing here.
San Andreas had probably the best terrain, available to different places available if you want to go to different types of places, especially the one that was like San Francisco, where they had the streets would go down like that.
Oh yeah, I would just take off and just
There was another game, Driver, that was good, that had a good San Francisco to drive around in, and that was good.
What was the I forget what was his name, Jizzy, the guy that had the strip club that was on the far end in San Francisco? Like he was down at the bottom of the hill, like by the bay, on like the northwest side, and that's where a lot of those streets would go down like that. And every time I'd go to one of his missions, I would just grab a beat up car and just send it flying right in and just crash right into the building. And usually try to make sure that it exploded before I started the mission. Because they would always give you a car to drive anyways. You'd have to drive him around, So I took advantage of that one, of just crashing cars into the building. What a great game, Gotta get you into Dark Souls next. I won't talk about that one. We got to get you into Dark Souls.
I don't know how likely it is, but maybe we'll see. Mike is starting to change the subject over to synths.
Oh, you want to talk about? Oh, is that what this show is about? We forgot.
Can't play GTA on his subsequent, he says.
That's what I get for wearing this T-shirt. My bad.
Yeah, totally. That's what you get for wearing the coolest shirt. But yeah. But actually, so you've been making pedals. We could start on that. Like how?
Sure.
Like you showed me like the inside of one. Do you have a bunch of them made like that up now?
Well, let me just switch the camera real quick because it's right here. I mean, the other one is drying over here, way over there. I can't go grab it real quickly. Let me turn this upside down. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm done. I finished painting this thing, which was the hardest part. Before the show, I thought about maybe I maybe should have done another layer of clear coat, like 3 more layers in a row across it, because I can kind of feel the paint, like the different in the layers right there as a touch across it. But at this point, I don't want to risk it. I think I'm just going to leave it like it is and see how well this does. Going forward, maybe other pedals I'll try to do, like instead of just 3 coats, 6 coats or 9 coats of clear coat over it. But I'm going to talk about this in the video that I'm going to post. But the main thing is that I was using in the past. In the past, I was using a crystal clear coat, and it causes a problem because, like, when things rest on it and touch on it, eventually, like if you want to wrap it up and ship it off to somebody, when they get it and unwrap it, the plastic has left little mars and little impressions on it. And this is a matte clear coat that I'm using on this one this time. And I don't think that's going to happen with this one. I can tell already there's a huge difference. And I probably could just go, remove everything that I've got assembled and just do another couple coats over it and it would be fine. But I think I'm just going to roll with it, tell you the truth. So
looks nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it. With the stomp, if I can do this real quick. Probably can't. But this was the issue, was trying to get everything fitted into it with the battery and so forth.
Yeah.
Because when you build a guitar pedal like this that has true bypass and then has the TRS jack for the input so that you can disengage the battery. I mean, if you're not going to have a battery, there's no reason to use this kind of a switch. There's no reason to use the TRS on the input jack. You see what I'm saying? It's a waste. So what I'm getting at is that, if I was not able to fit this battery in here, it would kind of be a failure, unfortunately.
I always wondered about when you put the inputs and outputs on either side like that, and whether some designs accidentally make the cables touch. Or like they're far enough. You have to make sure they're far enough apart.
Oh, most definitely, yes. So I've already taken all of that into consideration. I can plug into something just to see how far this is actually going to go into when a jack is inserted into it. In this particular case, this is not the final position for this connector. I'm going to flip it around once I get everything soldered in, because if you can see, these are the solder lugs. This whole thing needs to be turned 180 degrees around. Once that's done, there's no way I'll be able to get a soldering iron in underneath there. Absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
So these are all things you kind of have to think of ahead of time. This is where the power is coming in with the DC jack. Was I going to be able to clear all of this is a question. And so, like, with this particular kit, I just bought the PCB, and I didn't buy any of the rest of it. So, it's kind of, excuse me, I'm fixing to have to cough. Pardon. Much better. Anyway, so I just kind of had to figure all this out myself.
Well,
And,
it's
and
cool to end up knowing in the end how to source all that stuff, right?
yeah, it's
Like where to get it from, and
it's not terribly hard to find where to go. I use I use Tata for the enclosure. I think these jacks I got off of somebody on eBay. The DC jack I got off of Tata. These I also got off of Tata or somebody else. I can't really remember. The switch off of Tata. Then a lot of the components though I got from Mauser. So the capacitors mainly. The PT 2399 chip, I had those from I bought those like a couple years ago. And this is a TL072 op amp, I believe, and I bought those like several months ago before this even thought about using this kit. Those are just some common op amps that are really nice to have.
right. So that pedal, it said DRT. So is it like a dirty delay? Is that what it is?
Oh, there goes the switch. Yeah, so the dirt is just a bit of boost, and that's really where the op amp comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you have a chance to drive more gain, which if you do that will cause clipping. It's one way to clip a signal. And it also has some pretty good feedback. So with the feedback with the distortion, well, it's not really distortion, but it's it's called, that's why they call it a dirt and not a distortion. It really is a distortion, but it's a low gain distortion. So they don't want to classify it. Like distortion is really more classified for like a high gain amplification.
Okay.
And this is all fudge too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all kind of, yeah.
The lines are blurred. Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. And yeah, it does. It has a little bit of bite to it when you engage that dirt, when you turn it up a little bit. And I'm pretty sure what it's doing. I haven't verified, but it's just kind of doing like a soft clipping through the op amp.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure where. I need to look at the schematic and see where that is happening in the staging of the signal flow. Is it happening, before the delay, or is it happening just to the delayed signal? If you see what I'm saying, you could do some interesting things with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to you could just first of all just boost up the input signal, and then that gets delayed.
Yeah.
Or,
no, I'm really interested always in whether or not where it gets boosted, that sort of thing, because like the peak is just one really amazing thing about it, even though there's a lot of amazing things about it. I'm realizing it's just perfect. It's the most amazing synth. Anyway,
I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, but it has the overdrive before the filter, overdrive the filter before it, and then the distortion after it. And those are two knobs. Overdrive knobs before the filter. Distortion is after the. And you can go into the menu and just change them real quick without going too deep or anything like that to different types of distortion or whatever, or the
very interesting.
amount or put some kind of modulation.
If you can change some of that, then that means the distortion might be digital, possibly.
Okay, so what's digital? Shoot.
But the overdrive might not be.
The effects are definitely digital. Yes, the distortion's digital because they say the effects are digital, the filter's not. So the overdrive is probably not digital. Yeah. Yep.
That's really cool. That gives you a lot of neat options.
Yeah.
So, talking about digital distortion, I do have a digital distortion pedal, by the way. How's this for cool?
Cool.
And it's a pretty neat little. It's a neat pedal. It has overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. Then it has like a filter, like a phaser, and something else. And then the top
Light
ones up here.
And matter.
Yeah. The top circles up here are the different distortions, and the bottom circles are the different modulations that you can add to it. And then what's really cool about it, though, is the second pedal engages like a ramp. So you can go from like one effect to another effect and morph back and forth. And the Alexander pedals, a lot of them do that. And when they use that feature, usually what they're doing is they're like, you're at a sort of a stable ground, and then you engage this and you go into wild, incredibly crazy, psychedelic territory, and then come back out of it again.
I like those buttons
Oh yeah, those are
on
those
that.
little stomp switch things that I use.
Yeah, those
Um,
like are friendly for both feet and hands.
yeah, they especially for using like this is just what they are. Again, for pretty
Hmm.
cheap, and
Yeah.
they're really really handy for using with your fingers, with one exception. And
Mhm.
I'm very sage. If you know what sage is, that's the newest
Uh,
Twitch meme.
I keep forgetting.
That's like it's a sad Pepe. It's like a really cool
Okay.
3D sad Pepe. And he's sitting down. He's all slumped over.
Okay.
So this one, because the stomp switches are so far to the edges here. If you look back the last jam that I did with this is when it happened, and this was laying on the table. It had like cables plugged in and out, and like it had a whole bunch of other stuff. I pushed down and I pushed down on the edge right here, and I clipped it. This thing went boom,
Uh,
and then later on I noticed. You probably can't see it in the lighting too well, but there is a gash right here.
no, I can't see it at all.
Yeah, but it goes all the it goes
But
all
yeah,
the way
I
to the
believe.
metal. It's a gash that goes down to the metal, and I'm very sad about that.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's like one of those flippy frog things.
Oh, it was a total jam disaster. You know what happens when things go wrong, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't even
Yeah.
recording anything either. I was just kind of here feel like a lot of times when I do those jams, I'll stop, do something else, come back to it, listen, come back, until I kind of feel things out. Was during that process.
Yeah.
But the reason why I brought up the digital distortion, though, sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject, is that
No.
what I found is that, number one, guitar players hate digital distortion, by and large. But it works well for keyboards. And I think the reason why it works well for keyboards is because keyboards are line level devices. We don't deal with that crazy high impedance, matching type kind of issue that you have with guitars. And when you're also trying to feed your tone into an amplifier stack, we don't deal with that at all. None of that applies to us as synthesizer players.
Right.
It kind of can if you want
It could.
to.
It just it
You
brings
know.
a little bit too much resonance in most cases, right? It seems like.
Well, you would have to go out of the way. You would take your output from your keyboard and run it to an amplifier and mic it with a microphone. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, or do that overdrive thing with the old Model D.
Um,
You know,
Yeah. So like we
run
we
it
don't
back
deal
into
with that kind of
itself.
stuff. That's a really cool trick. I've used that before. It's actually really, really, really interesting. You get some interesting distortion that way. Like almost what it is it's kind of about getting clean distortion, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
So that when you're not playing anything, you don't hear, which is what a lot of distortion does.
Well, that's good. That would be great, actually. Yeah.
Even my beloved G went on and B went on pedals, some of the distortions that they feature, like when you switch over to them, the
Mhm.
noise is just it's crazy.
So then
but
you have to have a gate afterwards.
Exactly. And they give you that though. That's the great thing about those pedals is now you can
Okay.
take a gate and stack it right after it
Okay,
and
cool.
cut it off, and you like find the right threshold and just it's perfect.
Right.
But
Or an envelope even. I guess.
Ooh, I didn't think. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, envelope followers are interesting. I started really learning about pedals like with a notebook, writing everything down, learning what all the different types of effects pedals are, like flanger, phaser, chorus, delay, whatever. Like, what's the difference between all of them and why and how and all that stuff. Because originally, and see, I'm transitioning to the drum machine topic. Of the drum brute, because the drum brute, when I started in on synths about 4 years ago and started like just with wide eyes looking at, okay, what could I possibly do? And I already had all the Arturia V collection and Arturia Analog Lab and all that stuff in the computer, and the Arturia big keyboard to play it all. And my PC wasn't good enough, and so I had to that really egged me on to move towards the hardware, which I already wanted to do. so I got this mini brute, right? And kind of one of my original ideas was, all right, so now I'm going to get a drum brute, and then eventually, years down the road, I'll get a matrix brute, and then we'll go on from there and all that stuff. But I ended up not really liking them as much as other things as time went by, because so many other things started to come out and got excited about. But the thing is about the drum brute is the 12 outs. So that got me thinking, all right, so if you had a pedal on a kick, what would it be? If you had a pedal on hats, what would it be, and why would you do that, and why not something else, and why do people do that? Why this on a snare? Why gated reverb on a snare? You know, like, and so on and so forth, right? And then that was the idea. I kind of had this sort of erroneous idea, like went too far with it, like thinking like, oh, we'll have to have an effect for every drum sound that you have in your kit, right? And so therefore maybe a pedal for each one.
That's interesting.
But like now, see, I'm able to do effects in the box with you know, bringing everything in, and so that's cool. But I still definitely want pedals. I saw a Tascam P20, I think it was called, and it's this EQ. It's just like 12 knobs, I think, and it's just these EQ knobs, 4 lanes, and up at the top is ins, 1 in per track and 3 outs per track. It's aux, monitor, and out, main out, monitor, and aux, and it's on Reverb for sale.
What's called the P what again?
I think it's P20, Tascam
P20.
Or P something 20. PE20, because parametric EQ, so PE20.
Right. Oh my, okay.
And I've got it starred watching it, just in case, but it's only $180. But see, like, so see now I'm. After looking at all sorts of drum machines, and I'd talk about all the different ideas of other alternative drum machines, but now I'm really into the drum brute Impact, the little brother of the drum brute, or sister, or whatever, and it's got 4 outs, so that's why I'm watching that. But also, that's about as many as I want into here. Is I want a separate kick, separate for my clap. They say snares, but I use clap mostly, more than snare even. Sometimes don't like to use snare at all. But anyway, claps and snares. And then the third out of the Impact is the hats. And then the fourth out is the FM drum.
Yeah, okay, I do have a question. I don't want to change the subject, but at some point I want to talk about that FM drum. That's very interesting.
Uh-huh.
I don't know much about that, so.
Yeah, and that has the most knobs on it, actually. Like, it has, like, not just the 3 knobs up for that row, but it into the other rows of two more knobs to work with. And it's pretty much your basic FM, kind of like it would be on, well, it's more complex than the DFAM, but you have your modulation, you have your multiplier knob, and then you have a modulation amount of that. And then, so that's kind of like I've got in the FM of Platts. And I actually do a video on that and how that works. Like those 2 basic framework of FM, like before you start doing any kind of math, or, you know, you don't have to do so much math that way if it's just that simple, of like having somebody already did the math for you to have like easy multipliers as you go up the knob.
That makes sense.
And so,
yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of FM that's unusable. Unless if you're, you know, it's kind of like trying to chart through a galaxy, you know, and it's like if you know where you're going, this area is going to yield a whole lot of fruit for you as long as you use these parameters. But none of these parameters are going to do anything at all.
Right.
That kind of thing. So you could end up like trying to tweak stuff that's never going to do anything.
Yeah. And
so
yeah,
like with something like that, just giving you just the dedicated, you know, just the features just to do that, that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah. And that's cool for me, but actually that's not really the thing that excites me about the Impact, because I've got that on the DFAM. and
You
on
know,
all three of my Platts modules
and
the
let's
same
back
way.
up for a second. That's not operator-based FM synthesis. What's on the drum?
Yeah,
Impact.
but it's that sound, that boom, boom, boom,
Yes.
boom, boom,
Yes.
boom, 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 or the zap. Boom, boom,
Yes.
you know.
The ER1 does that. The Korg ER1.
And that's also because it has a pitch envelope too. They do the pitch envelope with it. Yeah.
Talking about the drum impact.
Yeah, a drum
Yeah,
root
yeah,
impact
yeah.
does.
Same-
and so
same
that
thing on the
does that.
ER1.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can and
Yeah, and so I've already got that, But it's
Um,
cool too. It's cool to have more.
Does it have an external audio input
Um
for the FM? That'd be very cool if it did. Probably doesn't.
No. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, see
Wait,
it
it
has
does?
four. It has four. It has the kick, has
No,
snares, hi-hats, and FM drum.
I'm
For the
sorry,
separate
an input,
outs.
an audio input.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So that way you could, mix that with the FM drum yourself. Mix in
Ooh, that-
whatever oscillator you want.
Ooh, that would be cool.
That's what the ER1 does.
Mhm.
But it's a pain in the butt to use.
Yeah.
That's the thing is it's like you think it's really cool and everything, but you realize, okay, I'm going to spend all day coming up with the sound for this thing.
Yeah.
Do I really want to spend all day just making it go boo?
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Okay, so I want to step back into philosophically into any kind of somebody coming up and maybe being excited about something like the drum root or the drum root impact, like an analog drum machine where you make your own sounds. You can't program the CCs to move from some other device. They are what they are no matter what on the surface, and it always sounds like an analog drum machine, like analog drum sounds, and that's the sound you get. You can change it from a range from this to this, but that's what you get. But why I would say there's that limitation, and I'm being aware of that. You should be aware of that limitation if you're getting excited about it, right? Is all I'm saying. But that said, it's playable in a way that other drum machines that are all sample based and are all different kinds of in their groove boxes and the different kinds of drum machines with different sequencers, they don't have that immediate playability of every single track. You can be changing the function. I mean, you can be changing the kick in a way and changing the hat in a way at the same time with both of your hands, in a way that you really always kind of want to do for transitions, because you want to bring things up, like the reverb send up while you're bringing the kick down, and then bring it back down while you bring the kick back up at the beginning of the next 16 bars. And that's what everybody does for if you're going to do it on the spot, you need that ultimate playability. But the question is, you've got that in the TR-8S and in your S2400, but samples, and so it's like that, only you've got all the drum kits in the world and all the sounds in the world that you'd ever want. So why wouldn't you want that instead?
Well, because you don't know what you want. Because number one, you don't have the experience to know what this offers you that this doesn't offer you, for example. And there's no easy answer for that, right? I mean, you and I both are kind of exception to these rules. We got a head start on most other people because we're trained in percussion.
Yeah.
And that changes everything right there.
It's something that I'm always just kind of always been aware of the details.
And here's what I really appreciate is that you are not a drum set guy, if I dare say so.
Yeah, no, I've tried to get away from it, but also
Okay.
try to give it the credit that it always should have too.
It's not, yeah. So where I'm going with anything is it's not is that you're looking for something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if I dare say so, I don't like to speak for other people, but it's kind of okay, we've already done this. How many different ways is there to do what you can do with this, these 4 or 5 sounds that you get from a trap set?
Mm-hmm.
And I totally appreciate that. And I'm coming from the exact opposite angle. I'm like, these are the perfect sounds. Why would you want to use anything else? And but both of us though are coming from an angle of of experience. we have reasons why we believe this in these things. Whereas like somebody who's just coming into this, they don't know where to turn to.
Yeah.
And
but also I have to say
and
I don't know where to turn to either. Even so,
fair enough.
For the last few months, I've been kind of rehashing all this stuff, and that's why I'm talking about it. And it's kind of like there's so many things in your face as ideas.
Well, I think there's only one thing you can do, and that's just do what sounds good to you. Yeah. That's really the best that any of us can do. I was watching, if you know who this guy is, Dave Weckl yesterday. Most Sundays he streams on YouTube, and he does so to kind of get people to come over to his Facebook education thing that he's doing, which is really cool actually. And but every Sunday he just talks. He just sits here and just raps about. You should check him out one Sunday. Just listen to him talk about stuff. What was really interesting that I can bring to the table for this conversation is that he kind of mentioned offhand in terms of like, just different sounds. Like what sounds good. And it's very funny because with percussion, with drums, mostly we're dealing with unpitched, noise-based type kind of sounds.
Yeah.
Mostly just transient things that don't.
Yeah, you don't pitch your toms every time you.
Hardly
you don't
ever.
Pitch your, you don't tune your kick every time you're going to do a song on a drum set.
Yeah, the answer to that, is like, and going in with what Dave was kind of saying, like, do you tune your bass drum? Do you tune your toms? It's like, well, only, does it sound bad? Is the real question. Does it sound? And this is what Dave was talking about. So in terms of like, how loud do I? Really, what he was talking about is in context of playing drums while someone is soloing. Right, so he's like, okay, well, I want to be doing things, so like the saxophone is going to take a solo, the piano player is going to take a solo, the guitar player is going to take a solo, and each time they're doing that, I'm not just going to play the same groove. I'm going to try to do something that isn't, like that goes with what they're doing, that jives and gels with what they're doing. It kind of gives an accent and a signature and helps, kind of gives a voice to this part because it's different now that this person is soloing. Don't ever let the bass player solo. Sorry. Anyways. Just joking.
Hey, Anky.
Hi, Anky. I always find basses like solos are just kind of like they're just the most boring. They just kind of boom, boom, boom. They never really say anything, because it's like the bass can't really. It's hard to express yourself with the bass. It's not really a solo taking instrument. But he said, well, he's playing the drums during these different parts of the solos. What he's really looking for is to make sure that nothing really sticks out. That nothing is really like draws attention to him. Hey, look at me, I'm the drummer.
Yeah.
And that is sort of the most important thing about drums, I think. If you really want to take anything away from anything, it's just when you're listening to what your drum part is, just ask yourself a question. Okay, is there anything in here that is just almost annoying?
Yeah.
You wanted to look for this particular repetition is annoying. And if you take away that one sound, you may suddenly find that it's no longer a repetition. You're just like, oh, this is very enjoyable now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's where I stumble in trying to come up with patterns for electronic beats is doing too much. It's just always just doing too much, and then it's like, whoa, it's too complex for just a part in a song, And it's like up front, even when I'm playing melodies, that's not cool. Now
I'm tough to talk to on this particular subject unless I'm doing a micro jam. I'm only using one drum machine. But man, I love to stack a lot of chaos into a part. But I kind of think that when I do it though, there is, it's not just a whole wall of noise. You've got troughs and peaks. There's like, ebbing and flowing going on.
Yeah.
But I definitely am guilty of throwing too much into the mix. And that's part of what I'm experimenting with right now is because I've got all these drum machines hooked up. I want to see, what goes well together and what doesn't, so forth. Where I'm slowly evolving towards is I'm almost treating each drum machine as an individual out from one drum machine. So I may say to myself, okay, on the 909, I'm only going to use the hi-hats. On the 808, I'm only going to use the clap or something, or the snare drum, etc.
Yeah.
Kind of keep me out of a little trouble because, like you said before, when you wanted to build these moments, when you want to take something up to a drop and then have come to the next spot. You want it to be very effective.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to have your parts programmed or have all of the parts signaled through your mixing routing chain in such a way that you can drop the bass for all of your bass drums.
Yeah.
So when I have 4 different drum machines going, I've got to say to myself, okay, well, how am I going to drop all the bass drums if they've got other parts going too? I can't just mute those tracks necessarily. It becomes very, very complicated, very, very quickly.
But one of my first thoughts when I was reminded about that this week from some video is just that that if you are using 2 drum machines instead, it can give you that. It can be that thing that gives you the flexibility, like, oh, I like my hats here and I like my kick from this device, but it actually gives you the flexibility to be able to to manipulate those both at the same time, when otherwise you couldn't on a device that didn't allow you that kind of control.
Yes,
I'm
just giving an example. I'm not using any of my individual outs right now.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about. This is a really interesting thing. It's like the 101. I was always thinking about, all right, is this going to be my drum machine and I'm just done with my studio and I don't need a drum machine, that sort of thing. Because it really does have all the drum kits in it and all the acoustic drum kits, a lot of studio drum kits, and just because it's all samples in the first place. And it sounds pretty good. I did see a couple 3-way videos between the original 909, the original or the versus the TR-8S sound versus the MC707 ACB sounds. Or it's not ACB though; it's Zencore. They said it was ACB, but no, the TR-8S is ACB.
Yes, and I guess the new 101 and 707 are Zencore.
Yeah. Funny enough, they did sound quite a bit different, all 3 than each other, on all the sounds.
That's interesting.
On the 909 and on the 808.
3 different devices, though.
Yeah.
It's like, see, the problem with those, and I'm not, I'm sure everybody does their best job, and one of the reasons why I shudder at doing videos like that is that, man, you've got to make sure that, that nothing... It's so hard to get things to sound like they're supposed to, for a proper test like that.
But then it's almost like you do that, and then is that honest if you're tweaking it to a different way to make it that way? I don't know.
Well, I mean, because, not to cut back to guitar pedals, but, when you're doing a comparison between 2 different guitar pedals, you don't pay attention to the knob positions. You go by your ear. You adjust till it sounds right.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah, that could be the important thing. Can it sound this way?
Yeah, so it's really important to get your ears to match them closely. But let's, at that point, I think we're really just getting a little too detailed with things.
Yeah,
Especially if you're going to EQ them, if you're going to add your own effects to it, right? Because, I mean, a lot of what we're doing, if you think about it, do you really want your drums to sound the same as everybody else's drums? Sometimes maybe yes, but sometimes you definitely don't, right? Sometimes you want a unique sound.
Yeah, even when 2 of them of the same device don't necessarily sound the same.
Yeah. So really what's important is does it sound good enough? And I guarantee you that 101 probably does sound good enough.
Right.
But the question is how well does it interface with your workflow?
Yeah.
And how hard is it to program?
That's the thing.
Can you just trigger it with MIDI?
Well, yeah, and I can do all that stuff, and it's perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. In the same way that way back in the day, I started out using Ableton Live Lite, and going like, oh my gosh, there's this library of, these are all my 808 kicks. These are all the 909 kicks I have to choose from. These are all the 727 and 626 and all the other acoustic everything and all the EDM stuff and all the trap stuff and all the and it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
I could have used it back then, but it's just not. That's not a drum machine. And I tried to make a drum machine out of the controller like that, and I did a pretty good job, but still it was my PC, and it always had issues with music production in general, and so you know. So there's I've always been trying to get to a point where I could actually have a real drum machine to just work all the like this, but just it's always what it is. The kick is always the kick. And I think in the Impact, I just ended up finding a drum machine that sounds good enough for me. Like I can make the hats sound like I always will want hats to sound. I can make the kick sound how I always will want kicks to sound. The clap sounds like a clap. And so for me, the playability for performance time is important because my dream is kind of like to be able to just play it just nonstop all day long, and then go live stream the next day and play it all day long and stream for 5 hours and have people go like, all right, this is great, and not feel like it's a drone, you know?
Oh, sure.
And I can do that with one drum machine, I think. As long as you can keep on, bringing in and out the parts and doing the swells, getting people excited and bringing it in, and keep doing things like that in the moment, when you need to. You could do it with sequencing too. It's fine, but.
Well, okay, yeah, you can, but that takes more premeditative thought, knowing ahead of time that you're going to do it, which usually means, like in my case, that you practice this jam for a few days before you actually perform it, so that you can discover what the jam actually is.
Yeah, and see, I want to get away from that so that it's just effortless. And
okay.
I'm lazy,
yeah.
and I'm lazy. I want everything to be effortless. Like, I don't want to think about anything.
I maybe people don't realize this, but I do. I put forth so much effort when I initiate a jam. And it's not really hard, but it's like, to me, I'm like, oh, here it comes. I got to set aside a couple hours and do this now. And it's really not so hard, but it does. The more that it comes, and you realize it's like, okay, this is a lot of effort I got to put forth to this. And I know that once I get over that hump, I'm gonna immediately reap the rewards, because it's like it starts to become fun. It starts to become like, oh wow, what is this? This is like new discovery, like new territory.
Totally.
So I hear you, and this is tough because I have so many different kinds of drum machines that I'm like, yeah, I agree with you on everything that you're saying, 100%. So what's the solution? Yes, more drum machines. Keep buying more drum machines. So
well, but see, I've got all the drum machines in the box, right? So maybe, it's like, so maybe you could even do it with a controller with the 101, as long as all the CCs could work. But the thing is, I don't think you can, because I don't think by all the sub tracks of the 16 tracks in the drum kit, I don't think you can just have a knob, decay knob and tone knob and everything on a CC for each of those sub tracks.
Probably not. And even if you could,
that's the problem.
It's totally unideal. It's so much better to be in front of that machine and to turn the knobs and not worry about any digital translation, because there's two ways that you could build a synth in that regard. You can either have the knobs are digitally tracked, and then that generates MIDI events, and then that way everything, and then you can, like your CC, everything is just ready to go that way. And I think that's how all the boutiques are.
Yeah.
And it works really well for that. But my beloved BassBot and Drum Drone, and BeatBot also, the Cyclone Analogic boxes. Yeah, they don't even have hardly MIDI CC at all. I don't believe. There's nothing like, so I can't use the MIDI CC on my Pyramid to control those. Right. So everything, and the same thing with the Behringers. Any CC is very, very limited. I forget what it offers, but super, super, super limited. So the way I've got things set up, and I've got to get up and go over there and tweak some knobs. And it's kind of the whole point. I try not to find myself running back and forth real quickly to mute something, to do something. I've got the mixer right here if I need to mute stuff. I can mute MIDI information right here from the Pyramid if I need to. I can premeditatively, or even not even that. Like, the beauty of the Pyramid, I'm still trying to adjust my mindset to this, but the beauty is that once you've got your states like what's playing and what's not playing, you know,
Uh-huh.
what tracks are playing and what tracks aren't playing, then you could save that.
Yeah.
And you could say like, okay, I want to save that. I'm going to put it here. And when I need to, I can come back to it. So what's great about that is that you can solo something, or you can like, you know, you can solo something and like start taking away things like with your filters.
Yeah.
Start like, you know, dropping the bass out.
And
so
see,
that,
that's
like,
important to me too. Good solos
start
and
adding
mutes.
reverb. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then have one button over here and have other things ready with one hand if you need it for your effects or your filters.
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, you know, and this thing will even, you can even have this set up so that when you hit a button, it will change on the dime, on the next beat, on the next measure, 2 bars later, 4 bars later.
Mm.
So like, you know, you see what I'm saying? Like
that's
if
cool.
if you can really start stacking stuff up in your head like a video game, you can have this thing track 8 bars at a time. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Start changing things. You got 8 bars to change everything.
Well, like when you said the definitive word track, like a tracker, pretty much. You're getting into that territory, but
so that's like, you know, great risk yields to great reward potentially. You know, or the whole thing could be a train wreck.
No, but that's cool. When it comes to like what I'm saying about this idea that this dream of maybe performing day after day on stream or something like that, and to just be able to keep on doing it endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Using something like the pyramid and pre-planning and having all your patterns, and even muting on that might be the way to go, as opposed to just having things that you can play on the fly as well. You know,
but you don't have to. You can totally do things on the fly with this thing too. Not to say that you need a pyramid or anything like that, but while I was learning the pyramid, like, you know, all I could do at first was like maybe just record something, right? Have it loop back. Just essentially use it as a looper, essentially. And, you know, I did a few jams like that, and I could go jamming for a whole hour. No problem. No problem at all. And I know you can too, doing that. It's you just start by just doing it and not really caring what the results are going to be.
Yeah.
And just have fun with it, you know?
Right.
And
it's funny.
Amazing.
I know what you mean, because I can do that on the circuit, like just no problem, and it's so fun. And
also, I feel like our audience, they like it. What am I trying to say? They're forgiving. They don't, you know, they don't mind the repetition so much because they know what we're doing. So, I find that like when I'm doing this kind of thing, I'm usually my fear in the back of my head is that, okay, this is boring. We're in a section right now, and this is boring. I've got to change something. And the problem is, though, is that, see, I'm caught in, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You're not able to listen. You're no longer an observer. So if you say, oh, I got to change, you may not realize, man, we could stay here for 30 minutes. Don't do anything. Don't touch it. Don't leave it alone. Leave it alone. So that's
I have a real problem with that too. Yeah.
So this
don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, that's what we need chat to help. Like chat will have like in Twitch, you know, redeeming points. But don't touch it, but for 1,000 points. Don't change anything.
Yeah, that should be an emote.
Sit on your hands.
Keep it on that. Keep it there, just like that.
Don't change it. So I want to talk about individual outputs, actually.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, right now I'm not using them. And the reason why is because like I can't afford to. Like all of my tracks are taken up.
Right.
There's nothing I can do. I've even got a new rack mount mixer that's coming in today, but it's a stereo mixer, so it's all just for effect returns. So I can't use that for individual outs. You have to have mono.
But that'll free some up, right? From your keyboards going into that.
Oh yeah, maybe, kind of, sort of. I'm still in trouble. I'll figure it out though. If I can, this guy right here, and I'll maybe talk about this on the video that I'm going to make about it. I love this drum machine.
Yeah.
But it does have a very, very bad problem, which is easily fixed, you know, as long as you have a good mixer to go with it.
The Robin Hood, the Luigi.
The Luigi. Oh yeah, right. I need to get the red one to go with it now. You ruined me. Oh man, I'm even going to paint them on here somehow. It's hilarious. So what they did with the RD6 is they gave you the clap. Oh my God. So yeah, Behringer gives you the clap. That should be their motto for the RD6. Get the clap with the RD6. And it's from the Boss DR55, I think. So yeah, they stole it from the Boss. So yeah, take that, Roland, doubly, Boss and Roland. Okay, so anyway, so here's the problem though. You get this one switch to control the sequence of both of them, but they only give you one knob to control the volume. Now, what I can do is I can open this thing up, find the resistor, main resistor that kind of comes in for the cymbal, and increase the value, because the cymbal, in my opinion, is way too loud.
Oh no! So yeah, okay.
There's no way. You see what I'm saying? Since they share it. So what you can do though is that you can take the cymbal or the clap out of the individual out.
Okay.
And then change it that way.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing about the Impact is like, well, since I'm not as interested in snares, I do want a clap all by itself, and so that'll be my clap all by itself. But also there is an out for the rest of the tracks in the drum machine. Now the thing about the Impact though is that it's got a distortion on the output unit. So you turn the distortion up, it's gonna go onto all the tracks for the output, but it's not going to be added on the main output, but it's
not
not
the individuals.
Right.
Same with the RD6.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll have to.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you'll have to do it in the box to add to get them together with the other drum sounds if you use other drum sounds with it.
And I mean, I think we talked about this last time, but I mean, essentially, the way that this works is that the mix out piggybacks off of each of these outputs.
Yeah.
Through an internal switch.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Wait, or the other way around. Let me think about that. Yeah, so that when so okay. I had that little wrong. There is a switch that comes out of each of these individual ones that goes to a mix that then goes to the individual out. So that when you plug into that, it breaks it from that mixer and takes it out of the signal chain.
Yeah.
So that then goes to the distortion and then to the output.
Yeah, and it's the same in that one too. I looked at the RD ones as well because they have the individual outs. But okay, so that took me on a quest these last couple weeks on what does the 606 sound like? What does the 626 sound like? And what does it include in its kit? And the 707 and the 727 and the 808 and the 909. And so I like the 606 because it was like it had a clave, I think. And others don't have claves.
You mean the 626?
The 626 had a clave. Yeah, had a clave. That
makes more sense. I can't recall, but I'm pretty sure the 626 was one of their first romplers, like along the lines of the 505. And
yeah, that was after. Yeah, so it was 626 is kind of like the 707.
Yeah.
And then it had the screen with the programmer there.
Yeah, but a smaller format. I think maybe they were at that point. They might have been trying to, I don't want to say compete, but I think that they were influenced at that point by the competition of Alesis, because the Alesis drum machines, especially with the SR16, when that little sucker came out, it's just this big.
Yeah. But actually, oh man, it sounded good. The 626 sounded good out of somebody's output compared to the digital.
Yeah,
it sounds analog. It sounds like a drum set.
Okay, yeah. Which takes us back to, what is a sample, right? We're listening. Everybody's listening to our voices digitally right now, and so forth. So, yeah, you get to this.
Sounds like a drum set.
That what you start to realize, and for me, what I guess my biggest breakthrough that I'm already starting to forget and unfortunately cement over with this foundation of other knowledge. I think this is the problem with sharing this information with younger generations and people that are just getting into this and so forth, is that it's so easy to forget the things that we learned, that made us go, oh, that's how that works, But for me...
Hey, Simon, how's it going?
Howdy.
Nice to see you.
Welcome for stopping by. is the big difference, especially when it comes to drum machines. What's the difference between analog and acoustic? Let's not even talk about digital.
Yeah. No, because an analog drum machine is way different than an acoustic drum set. That's for sure.
Exactly. And is the irony is that digital captures acoustic more accurately. It represents acoustic way better than analog does.
Yeah.
It's because it's cheating. It's because digital is just a recording. That's all it is. Really.
And I have to admit, with the 101, all the drum sounds in the world in the 101 is I skip over.
Because I was thinking SH101.
Sorry, the MC 101. Yeah.
Yeah. You get cool drum sounds from the SH101.
Yeah, I skip over all the acoustic drum kits. They sound great, a little echoey because they have their own, like, they're in a room. They're supposed to be in a room.
If you can you make them dry though?
Well, yeah.
Okay, good.
Some of them are echoey, or some of them are like in a room, which are actually kind of sound even better in a way.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I wanted to talk about. I'm the same way. You know, when I first started getting into this with my Alesis SR16 drum machine, and I would always go for the big sounding drums, you know, unless it was too much. Now, if it's the big drums, if it's too much, you know, don't use them. But that goes into the next thing though. I want to hold on to that. Very, very important for the audience in terms of, like, you know, what drum sounds to choose. But when listening to those dry acoustic sounding, you know, drum sounds and so forth, and you're just like, wow, that is just. I mean, if I was going to make country music, maybe that'd be pretty good, right?
It doesn't seem like
something, right?
It doesn't seem like something to make house music with, except for people do, and it kind of cool, sounds cool. But
okay, and here, and that's the other thing I want to touch on. I'm going to tell you why it sounds cool. That's what I'm going to touch on, because the most important thing you can do in finding the right drum sounds. But before we get there. So here's what's great about those dry acoustic sounding drum sounds, though, is that it turns out that when you go in, if you're in a rock band or whatever kind of band, you know, pop band or whatever, and you've got, you know, a live drummer, and you go into a studio and you're recording, it turns out that those are the sounds that everybody's going for in that recording session. You see, when you track your songs, you don't add effects. When you track them, Mr. Basic knows this, but just, you know, anybody out there that doesn't know it, you want everything to be as dry and noise free, and I want to use the word pure as possible.
Yeah, and that's why you have pre-fader listen (PFL) on your mixers, and that's why it goes in when you have a mixer that is meant to multi-track into your multi-track into your PC or onto a card. It is they always do it before effects, and people are like, "Why are you doing that? I can't get my performance like I had it." But see, that's the thing. That's what you use it for.
Yeah. And of course, as an engineer, you know, once you get everything, your levels set and so forth, you will give effects to the performers, to your artists, so they can hear it, because that it's important. You know, that really, you know, they do have to hear that when they're performing, because otherwise it's like, you know, it's like starting all over and having to practice from day one again, and you just can't afford that. Too much time involved. But those are the sounds that we're going for, right? Well, as an engineer, if I'm recording a snare drum, you know, and the other thing is, like, you know, no phase cancellation problems, right? No bleed over from other drums coming. So in other words, when you hear this snare drum, you're not hearing the toms and the cymbals bleeding in from the mic. And that's what you get with those really plain Jane acoustic sounds that you come out of your drum machines. But what you do is, if you've got individual outs and you can afford them, that's the most important thing. What I mean by afford, number one, like the Alesis SR16 only has 4 outputs, so you can assign. Normally you just use the stereo pair, but you've got another 2 aux that you can use as another stereo pair if you need the panning, or you can assign individual outs. So you can do like all 4 individual outs. And now the next side of the affordance is you need a mixer that can accept all of those signals, and you can do the panning on that mixer and the EQing and use your aux ins to you know,
I had no idea.
effects.
I never looked up the Alesis.
Okay,
that's
so
cool.
I hate to say it, but the best drum machine on the market is the Alesis, the new one, the SR18.
Okay.
If you can get one of those for like $150, that's a steal, and it's not beat up and all. Like,
yeah.
oh,
Bet you could too.
They're a pain in the butt to program, but they're more for chaining song type kind of programming. But you just take the MIDI in, and you've got you got your own sequencers that you can use. And
Was it you that made that video? Because somebody said it was the best. Somebody else said it was the best.
Well, I don't have the SR18
right now.
I don't have the 18. I've only got the 16. And the difference is the 18 just has more sounds. It's got it's just it's different.
Yeah.
The 16 might be more rugged though. You might be able to so if you're doing a live performances, you might want the 16 instead of the 18. Maybe it seems like it's more rugged. And I've got so many stories about that drum machine. But okay, so yeah, that's the great thing about those acoustic sounds is that if you've got the ability to have your individual outs, you can make those things sound amazing with the right outboard effects, better than the other drum sounds that you've got in that drum machine. You just got to play around and find them. Now, real quick, and I'll shut up and let you talk for a while. I don't want to hog the mic. But that other thing that I was going to talk about, how do you get good drum sounds?
Yeah.
Well, it's a two-stage process. If you're jamming from scratch, you can't do what I'm about to tell you. You kind of can, but you probably don't want to risk doing what I'm about to tell you. But normally speaking, like when we're making this music, we listen to it and so forth. Always remember the drums you start with probably shouldn't be the drums you end up with. So once you've established what the beat is, and the bass drum is doing this, the snare drum is doing this, or the clap is doing this, and the cymbals are doing whatever, now go back and listen to the bass drum, and you've got all the rest of the music added to it, and start changing your bass drums. As many bass drums as you've got, listen to every single one. And your ear will start finding the ones, that sounds better. For whatever reason, it sounds better. There's 1,000 different reasons why it could sound better.
It's weird how I surprise myself at the ones that I stop at the drum kits that I stop at. And the thing is, like, I'm really into just the 909 hats and kick now. I still go for the 808 kick though.
The 808 kick I find is harder to. Okay, it's a loner. It's a rebel dotty, as Pee Wee Herman would say. It's kind of hard to use it with other kicks sometimes. It just depends on what it is you want to use it with. I say that, but again, you can do so many things with the 808 kick.
I think
traditional
both,
long decay bass, like a rap bass drum. It's kind of like usually one hit from that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want more. You want another bass drum to maybe do a no pulse.
Yeah, and that's another thing I just learned about the 808. When somebody says my 808 and I get my 808, and they mean a melodic bass line.
Yeah, right.
And that's what they mean a lot of times when they're saying that. Because they're using the kick drum sound as a sample and playing it melodically. As
the harmonic bass line.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably know that, but I just learned that.
Well, it's a vocabulary thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a bummer because it's not that we're right and they're wrong, or we're more right and they're less right, or anything like that.
It's a bass drum. It's not a kick drum. I used to.
Yeah, exactly. As long as nobody gets really uptight about it.
I'm not fighting anymore. Yeah.
It's all where we came from. My first introduction to the 808 was from the SR16. And right there in the SR16, it says 808 kick, or the rap kick. And it's the first thing you do is you associate. No, I take that. I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. Because it's the Alesis, it does not say 808. It says rap kick. Okay. And then when I got my Roland TD7 drum machine on the Brain, it has the 808 kick, and I was like, well, that's the rap kick from the Alesis. So I mean, how can people not associate the 808 as a rap kick? It's a long running boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I've got it on my peak. 8_8 bass.
Nice.
Here, let me see if I can play it real quick. If I'm on my.
And while you're dialing that up, I mean, I could play my TR-08, but
I can't hear it, but you could hear it.
I can barely hear it.
Oh yeah, it's way down. Whoops.
Yeah, and that's coming from your peak, though, right? Is that coming from your peak, or is that a sample of an 808? Oh, you can't hear me. I'll wait till you put your headphones back on. So, question is that's coming from your peak?
Yeah, the
Okay,
peak
wow,
has a
okay.
patch in the first bank, factory bank.
And they call it 808 because it's got that boomy sound.
Yeah,
it.
except it's 8_8.
But I noticed they don't call it MS1, right? Which was like nobody really wants to talk. Or sorry, MS20, because like have you the MS20 like getting cool bass drum sounds out of that thing, or even the SH101. That I mean, all you need is just like is an oscillator, an envelope follower. And that's kind of really all that, like the
Yeah, it's pretty
Volca
simple.
kick is just the MS20 resonator, and it says it right there on it, MS20 resonator, and that's what allows it to get like that long running decay, oh my God, the Volca kick, you can blow your eardrums out on that thing. It is so dangerous.
Yeah.
I've done more damage to my ears on that than playing drums.
Yeah, that's cool. I would totally get one if I didn't have a DFAM and that I only... I don't really like the DFAM so much. I don't use it, but it's a
I'm
great
sad to hear
kick.
that.
I love it as a kick.
Okay,
No, and I love to use the sequencer as a melodic sequencer. For
you're
other
joking.
things.
Were you being sarcastic?
No, I don't really...
Because I hear you. But here's the thing. I
But I
could say
could.
the same thing about the subharmonicon. It's just as hard to use, in my opinion. And I think that's why, I got to say this. Like when the subharmonicon came out, I was so disappointed. I was just like, I mean, I don't know, what was it? Jealousy? Was what I was feeling? I don't know. I felt
I don't know.
because Dan and I had this long run, Dan Kushner, where we were talking about the subharmonicon a long time ago. And me and my I'm at a loss for words, but whatever. Like my penchant for being on reverb, like a hawk, and this weird kind of like a tuning that I have. Like I wasn't even looking at analog synthesizers.
Did you see the $1,900 one?
Well, that's it, right? One day I was like, I decided to go look at analog synthesizers. I was looking at guitar pedals a lot, and I don't want to look at synthesizers. I don't want to be tempted. And here's this subharmonicon, and I'm like, what is this thing? And it was somebody's. That they made at the Moke Fest, and they were like selling it for like $2,000.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not gonna pay. I don't got that kind of money anyway. and then it was weird. I felt something weird in the air, and then all of a sudden, boom! That was the day that Moog released the new subharmonicon, and they already had all of these content influencers, YouTube influencers, already had their devices ready to go. And I was like, man, I am so glad not to be one of these people, because I would have felt so pressured to make that thing sound amazing. You know what I'm saying? And that is a synthesizer that takes a long time. I got lucky with my first jam. The only reason, where I was able to get new things was because I was not using the subharmonicon to get those other sounds. You see what I'm saying? I was using my pedals to get those other sounds. Because I don't know how to use the subharmonicon. It's like it's going to take me a couple years to learn how to use the subharmonicon.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting that you think so. I don't think that's really going to be true. I don't feel that way about the subharmonicon either. I think it's it's just great, and I think it's great. But the DFAM, I'm like,
about the DFAM, that's how I feel about this. See, I want to guess there's something about you feel that it has this sort of sound.
Well, I guess there would
get away from that sound.
Well, there would have been expectations, I guess, that it could do things for me in a practical sense, but really it's only going to be used for certain things in certain areas as a niche thing. And so if I say it that way, it's absolutely perfect and I love it. But if I would have thought that it was going to be my rhythm section, I don't really like it as that, except for if it's just the kick, and I love it as just a kick, and I'll use it as my kick. Even though my Platzes could be a kick too, and they're great kicks. But the DFAM is just a powerful kick, and it's kind of fun to use it that way, I think. And so it'll just be my kick, I think, the way I feel about it now.
That's an expensive kick drum. Hey,
but you turn up the decay, and you hear all the other steps, and it gets crazy, and that's always cool to do in a performance too.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, the DFAM is a percussion instrument. not just because it says percussion synthesizer, but when I say percussion, I mean like auxiliary.
Yeah.
Like, this goes back to, like, I feel like you're a percussion guy, and I'm a drum set guy.
Yeah.
And like drum set guys are different. We're not. We can be, but we're not classically trained. We're not. And
mentally, I kind of turned a corner, and I was like, I kind of like am trying. Yeah, I tried not to be all drum set.
Right,
and I tried to be all about melodic percussion and auxiliary percussion.
Yes.
Hit percussion. And
so I kind of think that if you would see the DFAM as that way, you might find a whole new, shed a whole new light on it and realize, oh, okay. But I will say that I find that it lends itself really well as as a techno device.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, that's what the kind of music that you want to be making right now.
That does seem to be what comes out of it.
It's very loud.
No matter what.
Loud and aggressive,
Yeah.
It's almost like this is the reason why I got the DFAM, is because one day when I was listening, and again, I was putting my faith into listening to things on reverb. But if you kind of know what you're listening for, certain things, you can do that. And what I discovered was I realized, oh, this is a great sounding distortion drum machine where you don't have all that excessive extra noise that you don't want from a distortion pedal. It's quiet. It's quiet as a mouse. There's you can hear a pin drop with the DFAM. And then you got, and it sounds like, like you're dropping a big sheet of metal on the ground. And I love it for that, The other thing, of course, is what I recommend. I'm just going to send you a ring modulator. You don't have a ring modulator, do you? You have just a passive ring modulator?
No.
Is to get two LFOs, one LFO, to split it and invert what you splitted. Then take one LFO to one oscillator and then invert it to the other oscillator, so that they're going against each other. One goes up when the other goes down, and then they go back and forth.
But what would be stable? The stable part of that
is taking them into a ring modulator. One is the input, the other is the carrier. It doesn't matter which one, because they're doing the same thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about LFO instead of a ring modulator.
No. You have to have an LFO, two oscillators, and a ring modulator.
Okay.
And
well,
that's the neutron. But you see, what's cool though is that the neutron, I do that with the neutron and the DFAM.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have, of course, any two oscillator synthesizer will do this. But the DFAM, I think, it sounds different than the neutron when I do this. It sounds a little better than the neutron. This could be the Moog quality speaking here. I don't know. But that DFAM with that ring modulator, you've heard me use it in jams. I just don't know that you knew what it was.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't remember at the moment, but it's quality. Yeah, you're right. It's nice.
And hooking it up with the subharmonicon, that's going to be really.
Oh yeah, definitely do that.
I don't have those cameras on. Sorry. Because that's just what I have with my setup over here. Like, I've got the DFAM next to the subharmonicon, but they're at the base of the Behringers.
Well, I have the System 1 has ring mod. I can ring mod on that, and that's fun. But I don't use it for anything.
You could just take the output of your two oscillators into the DFAM, into that ring modulator, and then just tweak the knobs on the oscillator. You don't even need the LFOs. You could just be the LFOs.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's mind-blowing, the sounds that you get. You get some really, really cool, almost digital-sounding artifacts that are pleasing. They're not displeasing. But also, you're going to get the drum brute impact. You've made the decision to get it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, see, you see my desk here?
Yes.
How there's the SQ64, which I finally got. I haven't talked about it. I haven't even mentioned it except to you, actually.
I'm excited about that
I
thing.
finally got it. I've been griping since December about how it's not released yet. And some people have got it in Europe and whatever, but anyway. So it's here and it's wonderful, and I just did a song that's sort of a tribute to the Bolivian national anthem on it, and I did a video last night, and I'll post it whenever.
Okay.
and it's wonderful.
Cool. Awesome.
I love Bolivian music, the pan flute stuff, music of the
oh.
high Andes.
Oh, Elder Scrolls.
Probably
what
whatever
you're
has it's sort of always rhythmic
Yes.
guitar like and then the pan flute is
Yeah, you're talking about Jeremy Soule. Jeremy Soule is one of my all-time favorite composers. I put him up there with Vangelis.
I don't know who.
Oh my God, his soundtrack to Morrowind, and it's all VSTs. As far as he's not using real instruments. I mean, I don't know how he does it. I mean, you can kind of, I keep wondering. It's like, is he recording real symphonies and everything?
Oh well, everybody can use VSTs. Get good at doing that.
Yeah,
use
but
them expressively or do it after the fact.
His blow me away. If you so his whole Oblivion, of course, was the most popular Elder
Cool.
Scrolls game, and before that was
I didn't get into any of those.
what was the one before that? Darn it.
Skyrim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Skyrim is the big one. Skyrim is the big one. Then before that was Oblivion, and then right before Oblivion was Morrowind. That's why I couldn't think of it, because I was already naming it. So yeah, all three of those soundtracks are utterly amazing, and those are just wow. I love that music. For the Skyrim soundtrack, it was I think a 4 CD set, and he has a lot of repeat. Like he brings back a lot of the music from Morrowind and Oblivion. And they changed the titles. I don't know why they did that, but there is that fourth disc, or that fourth side, or whatever. I think it's 2 discs. That's what it is. And there's a 30 minutes or like 40-minute track of this ambience, and it's the most gorgeous thing I've ever heard. Because it starts out, it's a combination of like nature sounds, but then he starts bringing in the music very subtly. And to a point to where it actually starts building up, and it's just like full. What is those Celtic instruments? It's not a pan flute, I don't think. I can't remember what it is, but I don't know. It's all VSTs anyways. They're not real instruments. I'm sorry. It is just gorgeous. I love that stuff so much. I never get to talk about it either.
So Mike's getting a little spicy in the chat here. I don't know why. I don't see any kind of what's the reason for that. I don't know, but if you're here to just like be mean and stuff, then that's not really cool. I don't appreciate that. But anyway, I thought you were just joking. If you're just joking, that's cool, but it's not really cool. Seriously. But anyway, that's cool. I'm not into silencing anyone or anything, but I am into saying what I think is not cool. That's not cool for sure. If you have an opinion, I totally always appreciate your opinion, Mike. But yeah. But anyway,
it's kind of hard to have a debate about something if there's no clear opinion or information about, I don't know. I didn't read what was said, so I can't really comment on anything.
Well, I think he might be fired up about the analog versus digital sort of thing, and we all have different sort of ideas about that. But I'm just trying to learn what everybody's different opinion is, and just kind of like go from there in my own little way. So
one of the things that I discovered from my DIY escapades, for example. Like, take a this pedal, for example. It has a digital chip. The delay in it is digital. But what comes out of it goes through this analog op amp. So the signal coming out, runs through analog circuitry. And in fact, pretty much everything that's digital, unless it is a VST, hits some analog circuitry on the way out. And you say to yourself, well, my ears hear something. Okay, yeah, totally. If they do, then they do, When I'm working with what I'm working over here, I don't necessarily think in terms of analog or digital. I just go for sounds and trying to blend those sounds together. And really the most important thing that I've really discovered about analog is that, like, if you're not playing live, if you're playing live, then it's like the analog can really make a difference. When I took my
Mm-hmm.
bass bot, the TT303, over to my friend's house, and we hooked it up into his bass amp. Wow, that thing sounded like a monster. Like you can really, you can
Right.
start to feel it. You know what I mean?
I think there's something about the amount of power coming out an actual device. Like, say, the circuit, like, see, like the mono station has a lot of power. Like, it's loud
Mm-hmm.
when sound is coming out of it. It's at half. It's already loud.
What is it? Does it have
Some
12 volts
things
in?
are not like that.
Does it take
Yeah,
a 12 volt? Yeah.
yeah, just like anything else. But
Well,
that's the thing is like, and they say that about the Ultra Nova too. And I'm thinking, oh, that might be a cool portable synth to take around and do everything with. So people say it's like, oh yeah, that has a loud output. And so it's like, I think having a hot output like that is on a device is like, that's one of those huge advantages to analog, is just it happens. The advantage happens then, right? When
well, yeah.
when
But if you,
when the audio is coming out of something, and how the audio is coming out of something. Sometimes the advantage is the power.
that's right. There's all kinds of examples I could talk about. My mini chaos pads over here, they only run off of 5 volts. That's it, 5 volts, and they're not that powerful. Is kind of part of the problem. So you gotta. I need something to kind of help amplify that signal, which could introduce more noise, for example. So that is,
Yeah.
what are you going to do about that? I have my Soulsby at Megatron synthesizer, which uses just regular old
That's crazy.
at Mega chips, which I can't find anymore. It just uses one of these guys right here.
That thing is crazy.
And at first, once I got into DIY and I'm looking at Megatron, I'm like, well, why did I buy this at Megatron? I can just make one of these myself. Well, I cracked that sucker open, and my first question was, well, another thing is, if the Arduino only needs 5 volts, why is the at Megatron taking 12 volts? It uses a 12 volt power supply.
Mm.
Well, yeah, it's because it's got a beefy analog filter in that sucker. That's why. And it's also got like that power coming out of it. So here's a digital synthesizer that's got like a lot of analog beef powering it up, and they don't advertise that. See what I'm saying? Because like your average customer is not going to know what it really means, or they're not going to believe them.
Well, at the beginning, when I started learning what really is a synthesizer about 5 or so years ago, it was like, I started learning right away. It's like, okay, trying to figure out what is it about the Moog, the old Moog Model D, that everyone's just like, oh, this is just, there's nothing like it. Why is there nothing like it? Why is there nothing like this? And it was always seemed to be about like the power coming out of the actual unit, about the actual speakers, like even just like, I don't know about, obviously not speakers, but just, and it just way people described it, it made me think of why it was better just to have one there yourself, and how you can't explain it to anyone. It made me think of the organs, like the couple old organs that I had growing up, where it has this huge cabinet speaker down there, and it's just so booming, and there's nothing that comes into your headphones from a radio or whatever that's like that.
Yeah, totally. I think another great example is the Behringer, I got to get my numbers correct, VC340 versus the Roland VP03, the boutique. And I have both of them. And that was, to me, when I first got into this, I was like, I'm still pretty much the same. Analog, digital, I'll use them both. I don't have any preferences per se. It really depends on what I'm doing. But when it came to that right there, that comparison alone, the VP03 versus the VC340.
Yeah.
The VP03 is, the analog, the ABC digital Roland, which they did a great job of. When you do those filter sweeps, you don't hear stepping. But the difference, like in the that oomph that you're talking about, you know what I mean? It's like there's just no question about it. It has absolutely nothing to do with the 1/8 inch output jacks versus the 1/4 inch output jacks.
No, I know that.
Absolutely nothing to do with that. It doesn't. But what it does have everything to do with is the the output impedances probably could be the same, but that wattage is not the same. There is more power pumping out of that analog synthesizer than that digital synthesizer.
Yeah, so maybe
There's no comparison there. But there, however, hang on, hold your thought.
yeah.
But however, you see, here's what the VPO3, what the Roland can do, is hook into your computer and act as an audio interface.
Yeah.
And it's got that vocoder, so you can record your voice and get a clean signal right into your computer. You can't really do that without a whole lot of hard work and a lot of money and the external devices with the analog device.
Mm.
So, see what I'm saying? It's like, what are
Yeah.
your needs? What are your concerns? You have to like balance those between each other in
So
determining analog versus digital.
The S2400 sounds pretty good.
Yes, it sounds really amazing. It's
That's
a lot
samples.
It's same thing though. It's because well, what does a CD sound like? Why does the CD sound good?
The CD sounds like 44.1. No.
It sounds good because you've got a good, outputting device, right? You've got some good digital analog converters, right? That's where all of that really matters. And of course, these days, I mean, with everybody switching over now to pure physical, non-physical media. See, we don't even use these terms anymore. People just say Spotify. It's like we went from nobody will ever purchase non-physical media. We went from everybody has to have a CD or an album to Spotify.
And now people are trying to do this NFT thing to bring it back. Just like, oh yeah, well you really can't. You can still copy it just like always, but they will say that that's the original because it's got some watermark in it that you can't do anything about theoretically.
No. That only works with. I mean, they could put a watermark on there.
But really, all you can do is ever just claim, yeah, I have the original.
Yeah, all that does is just say like, okay, well, I'm caught with this file and it's got a watermark, and I don't have any proof that I illegally purchased it. Maybe you can get in trouble or something. I don't know. It doesn't change the way it sounds, because that would mean that the audio players would have to have something built into them to respond to that.
It definitely doesn't change the way it sounds either.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. Yeah, like someday we could talk about digital stuff, because I've actually done like a lot of studying on digital. Like I've done a lot of experiments and working with Nyquist's theorem with understanding, seriously, all across.
Well,
the
yeah,
board.
I'm into the physics aspects of all of it.
Just at the end of the day, you just got to go with what you think sounds best to you, to yourself. And if enough people tell you that sounds bad, then maybe they're right. If enough people tell you, not one or two. And even then, you may not even want to hear their advice.
In the real world, nothing sounds that bad. It's just to us who are just being creatives with critiquing ourselves and stuff.
I think it's something that is taking advantage of by people who want to sell products as well.
Yeah. They
I'm
want
always
to
on the
tell
lookout
you
for.
everything sounds bad and all the music out there is so crappy, and it's just saturated with all this crap. It's because you don't look for good music, apparently, because I hear it all the time.
Well, I don't look. I will say this: I don't look for new music anymore. I really don't. And that is, for me, I think I just sort of, kind of got fed up with being disappointed with music that's coming out.
I can understand that. I've been through times where I just couldn't find anything good. Yeah.
That I just write my own music now.
Uh-huh.
Before I did that, I said, okay, I'm going to go back and just make sure that I catch up on all the bands that I missed the first time around. Like Thin Lizzy, for example, Foghat, all these bands that I just never really absorbed and listened to. And who are these bands,
Uh-huh.
And I've just been, wow, I'm so glad, I don't care about new music, because, there's that many more bands that I missed that I need to go back and get my time to.
I did that a bit, living with certain people who had these humongoid CD collections of like old stuff and all the old Dead concerts and stuff like that. And it's just like, whoa. there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know about, and so I
Yeah.
got to be educated a lot on that, and just that was
Like
my world for a long time.
Hawkwind was another one that I went back and caught up with. But
And Foghat, that's pretty cool.
yeah, I mean,
I didn't think about them in a while.
Nazareth and Thin Lizzy are like two other bands. I already mentioned Thin Lizzy, but like where I'm just shocked at how many great songs they have. They're just like, oh wow, never even. And then you find your friends. You talk to them, and all of a sudden you realize that they happen to be, you never knew it, but they are like long running fans of these bands. Like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And start throwing all this stuff at you.
That's cool.
But then the other part, of course, is what we do now is just make our own music.
Mm-hmm.
Why support any new music whatsoever when you can just make your own music? Does that sound selfish and everything? But hey, I'm telling you, the more you study the recording industry, the more you're going to realize you don't want to support it.
Well, okay, well, that's my big point that I was just going to make. It goes back to I know that there's a ton of good music. Everybody, just real people, are just playing all over the place, and they're all broadcasting it. But industries have always tried to make you believe that there's this window where only these people are playing music, only these people are good. These people are the people who are better than the other people, and that's never been true.
Yeah, it's only true because people, don't know who else, because nobody
We're
else is
kept
streaming
from
that.
finding, just because there's only so many avenues that you're able to, they kind of take advantage of the fact that it's just a natural thing that you have to find platforms, you have to find a good radio station, you have to, see, I found Pandora, like years and years ago, I started with Pandora, and I've like cultivated these, like made sure I thumbsed up just the right things and never thumbsed up or down anything after it was perfect, and now it's perfect for me and has been for a couple years now, and it's like I feel really lucky about that. But like, platforms don't show anything. I mean, if you're in the car listening to the radio, it's the worst thing ever. I listen to Mexican music because there's nothing else comes in.
Which area, which region? Do you think
In the
it's from?
Pacific Northwest.
No, but I mean
what?
of Mexican music that you're listening to. Like which tradition?
Well, kind of more traditional stuff. I don't know.
Is it
but
a lot of it
modern.
in waltz? Is it a lot of it waltz?
Yes,
like
yes.
Grease?
Okay. And my partner can't stand it.
Yeah, you either love it or you hate it. I kind of like that. It's especially. Can you follow the drummers at all, or are they doing like these crazy rolls where it's almost?
No, they are changing the time signature all the time.
You're just like,
and
what
adding
are
another
they?
measure before they
Yes.
change to the next thing.
And
I love that.
So I went down to Mexico one time and I watched one of these bands plays, and I just sat there like this watching the drummer. Because I was like, what are you doing, man? I mean, and it's just like the whole time. It was only one other time I did that. It was when I went to a German restaurant. It was a German band, and I sat there watching the drummer. That guy was even better. The Mexican kid, he was maybe playing about 10 years or so. This guy, he wasn't German. He was from here. I don't know what his nationality was, but he's probably been playing 40, 50 years. His rolls, he was like butter. He was just buttering that snare drum. Just and the thing is, before people get us wrong, their beats are amazing. Their rhythms are absolutely amazing. They're entrancing, and they're never doing the same thing twice, and they're never stepping over anybody. And
Right.
They're never tripping up. You're like, they're
Well,
just
that's
doing
'cause-
daredevil stunts the whole time.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Indian music that way, where it's like they've got enough of a long-standing tradition of what rhythms to do, of what their chord progressions are, of do this little trick, of what these trills are that you do on the accordion all the time, and to signal the end of the song for the other band members, and it's just so complex, but set as a cultural pattern.
Now that's what I would
stuff
call
like that.
border music, because this is so wild. I learned all this. I had no idea. But if you go back and you watch Three Amigos, right? Three Amigos. You watch it again.
It's been a while.
Okay, because they actually touch on this. Was that during the late 1800s, there was a large German occupation on the border right there for the Spanish-American War, I believe. Maybe I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And while the Germans were there, they passed on a lot of that musical culture to the people in the region, and that's where this music comes from. That's why it has that waltz feel to it. And
And it's polka related
polkas.
because
it is, yes.
yeah, and there's a lot of that in influence in Louisiana, and then the Creole music is at the same time.
And I think that is where, like, I saw R.L. Burnside. I don't know if you know who he was. He's an old Delta blues player. And I saw him back in like the 90s or something in Nashville. And that was, again, it was him and his white son, it's not really his son, on guitar, and his grandson on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his grandson was like one of the most amazing drummers I've ever seen in my life. And it was the same kind of thing, because it's like doom taka doom taka taka doom 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 taka doom taka taka doom 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 bap boom back 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 boom. Like, whoa, where's the one? How do you guys know to do that? What do you? Every time they would change, they were not looking at each other either.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, how in the world, man? It blew me away.
It's really been inspiring, the fact that I've done that, and I ended up, I guess it's because I couldn't charge my phone a few times or something, and so I ended up turning on the radio. But lately, it's been the last couple months I've been listening to Mexican music on the radio, and I almost was going to be embarrassed to say that, but it's cool that. But the thing is, but the thing for me is, you can do like modern pop music, you hear that station, but if you go over to the Mexican station, like you said, it's all these complex rhythms, and then the chord progressions, and then all that stuff. It's like, it's all sound design sort of stuff and music production. Like, it's really interesting to us that way, if you look at structure and all that. Yeah, it's great. And then that got me thinking back to Bolivian music, which is my favorite ever. And that's why I did this. That's why I did this, because I had this album. I went to Folklife, Northwest Folklife of here in Washington State. They always have. It's just a folk festival. And this one year I went. I got a CD from these buskers who were from Bolivia, who always came up, and they were always there in Pike Place Market in Seattle too, on other times. And I got their album, but I haven't been able to find it since, and I lost it. But now I actually found it on Amazon Music, and I'm like, cool. I'm gonna get like 3 copies of that if I can, so I don't ever lose it again. Because I've looked on YouTube and on other albums, and they were never quite as good as that album.
What's the instrumentation?
It's just a bunch of guitars for rhythm, and the pan flutes.
Okay. I was going to guess that, but I didn't want to. But
and then
it
sometimes
makes me think of like Argentinian music.
Yeah, and it's mostly instrumental, but sometimes they go gotcha. Sometimes, and yeah, but a lot of times it's instrumental, and I just it's just great.
Burst out into chorus.
It's just like, and they do the rhythm with the guitar. See, the guitarists do all that stuff, and they have to keep track of those, and that's cool. And I didn't do that here on the SQ. I'll have to do some research on Bolivian music to do that. I just remembered a song from my memory, but
we could end with discussing the merits of snare drum versus clap.
I get that it's important, because everybody puts it in and talks about it, that it's important, but I never liked the snare drum itself, but actually kind of I can be okay with a snare that you can make sound like you want it.
Fair enough. For me, like the clap, I just got to be careful when I'm saying that now, because it sounds like venereal disease.
We're talking about a sensitive subject now, folks.
Yeah. Very public service announcement.
Don't get the clap.
Don't get the clap. So, is that it's interesting, because I mean, so there is a little bit of snobbishness on my behalf as being a drummer. And I kind of get that, you know what I mean? It's weird. It's like once you get bit by that, it's like you become a werewolf or something. You just have to embrace it. Mm-hmm. And it's about holding sticks. You as a percussionist, though, see, you understand the importance of hand percussion. You also know when you also have to use sticks.
Yeah. And I played the snare in school I was the snare guy for the longest time.
See, I'm not a snare guy. That's the other thing is I'm not. In marching band, I played saxophone. I did not play drums.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that whole rolling kind of stuff. The rudiments.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not me. I am a punk rock drummer at heart, really. But so what we're getting at here is just in terms of like the fundamental sound and its importance.
I guess I always thought it added a little bit too much noise, maybe.
Maybe that's what it is, because like for me, like the clap is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have enough middle and bottom end. It's all top end. And I don't think it's necessarily just because it is a hand instrument, literally a hand instrument.
Yeah.
But
How do you simulate the hands?
Yeah. So, but for me, it's kind of where I do like to use the clap in place of the snare drum is a trick that was taught to me because I learned a lot of tricks coming into this, like learning how to write techno music.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my stuff was just techno was just an element I could add to which is more of a soundtrack type kind of style of music, traditional whatever. Is that you almost don't want a backbeat in techno music. You just want the bass drum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do get that that's a difference between house and techno.
And I wish I had it ready for you here. I could do it, but it would take too much time.
But it's funny. I like to use anyway. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and say it.
I like to use techno sounds. I like to use 909. That's the thing is I'm into using the 909 sounds, but for house, not techno so much.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that house needs more of a backbeat than techno does, and techno the backbeat can actually distract away from the pulsing rhythm that you can actually get from it. It's a build up.
Okay, I thought you just said that techno needs the downbeat. Or the backbeat.
No, it does not. Yeah.
Okay.
What's great, with psytrance, especially, and like certain technos.
Yeah, that definitely.
is to wait before you introduce the backbeat. Wait, and then it kind of helps to break the monotony a little bit in that sense.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is it's really cool with techno. So you use the clap for your 2 and the 4, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that is the 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, you do, Mr.
Yeah.
Basic. But
I taught my daughter that already, and she knows.
Excellent. Is the 2 and the 4 is where the backbeat is.
Uh-huh.
And what you can do is with the snare drum instead do 16th notes like on high, and then like keep it down and then just turn the volume up, and then cut it off and then have it with the clap or whatever.
Yeah.
So there it's cool because you're using the snare drum for that roll. And you don't really, and you can't. You've dedicated it to that, so you can't use it as the backbeat. And all that's left is the clap, and that's one of those things that kind of came about out of sort of desperation. I think that's where that kind of came from.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. You see what I'm saying? It was because I've got this one drum machine. This is all I can do. If I can do this trick, in this particular case, that clap on the 16th notes, it's too much.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It has too much decay.
Oh, I'm missing something. Actually, that's the thing. Is like I might have said my whole shtick might be that I hate the snare, but really there was just kind of idiosyncrasies about it back in the day about the real snare drum, about how in the band room it would always ring out and be all go like shh whenever you're trying to play something else like the marimba.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Well, no, dude, that can do it, man.
If it's even in the room, I have to tape it down. It's like.
Those are the things that we bring with us, right?
But okay, so a positive after that is that what I realize now is I don't really feel that way anymore. Is actually I do appreciate it, and especially because risers of before the drop, or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Snare is important
for that. Totally, yeah.
Right.
There is, especially with a good short, like hardly any decay, like a really snappy sounding snare drum, which you can get with the 909. You can make it sound very, kind of give like a lot of decay about it. I'm looking for another word. I can't find it right now. Sorry. Or you can tighten that up really
yeah,
well.
That's what I have noticed. Yeah.
Almost to the point where it sounds like it's gated, which can be cool when you add effects to it. But yeah, so for me, like the snare drum is just that perfect sound for that. I don't know how to explain it. And this is where, gets into a little bit of controversy because right now, I feel like a lot of people are looking for like new sounds and everything, and it's kind of like they don't want to just use like regular bass drum, regular snare drum. And it's like, oh man, it really kind of bums me out a little bit, because I feel that those are the sounds that last longer. What I mean by last longer is when you're listening to something, you know. So in other words, people are going for these drum sounds that you notice, and that's a mistake in my opinion. It's like you really want to go for drum sounds that kind of tuck away. You feel them. You totally feel them. Like if you change them and you notice that they're gone, and it's suddenly like, oh, there's like an empty space. But when you put them back in, it's like, oh, okay, there they are. But they don't really just draw attention. And instead, using those little kind of clicky, kind of like really, really, really electronic sounding type kind of stuff as a percussion. And when I say percussion, I mean auxiliary. And when I mean auxiliary is it's kind of like you've got this foundation. And I believe that the foundation should be the drum set. Traditional bass drum, traditional snare drum, hi-hat, those kinds of sounds.
Yeah. I try to get away from it, but I always come back to realizing that, you know.
During your song, get away from it. In the course of the song, have a section where you get away from that and introduce these other sounds and then come back to it. That, in my opinion, becomes a journey, and that's where those sounds really become, because, I mean, I get it. I get why people want to use those sounds, and I, too, want to use those sounds. Like my PO 24, is it? The Office? Can I grab it? I think I can. Well, I grabbed everything with it. There's the little hooks that I can use them with. It came with it. This is my least used pocket operator. I'm out of batteries for it right now, so it's the one pocket operator that doesn't get powered up. And it's my least favorite pocket operator, but I'm not getting rid of it because to me it's a challenge, you know, for me to use it and make it sound like in a way that is pleasing to my ears. But to give you an example of the kinds of sounds that I don't like, this thing right here. And but yeah, that's just a completely subjective opinion. Right?
I don't know. It's a pocket operator.
Dude, I love the. But the PO12. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. You can always make them sound good.
The PO12 is going to be a classic. Like 20 years from now, it's got that sound, man. It's got. See, so there are certain drummers, Stuart Copeland, Neil Peart, Phil Collins, Alex Van Halen, Terry Bozzio. Like, they all have these signature snare drum sounds. Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden. They all had these. It's wild. It's like they understood that their voice was the snare drum. Everything else, comes up and serves through that snare drum.
Yeah, it does. It does always cut through. That's the thing.
And those particular drummers, like many times when you could hear a song, you wouldn't even have to hear hardly any, just a little bit of it. You could just hear that snare drum and know who it was.
And that's one reason why I don't tend to like it when I'm trying to create stuff. It's just like, I'm trying to get rid of that thing that's louder than everything else, I guess, always in my drums.
Well, I think that's a good thing. And I think that comes back to being able to just audition a lot of different sounds, and see what. I'm always trying to do that. When I've got the 909, or when I say 909, I mean my TR-09, of course. But I like to refer to it as the 909 because that's the spirit that I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And it's got a very limited range of sounds. If you think about it, that's why your MC101 has 808 sounds, 909 sounds, because it turns out, well, there's only really one sound, and you can change a few parameters. Right? And when you change those few parameters, you can all of a sudden get 100 different bass drum sounds. But it's really just that one bass drum sound. It really, 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 really is, especially when you have it in an interface like the original 808 or the TR-08.
Yeah.
Or the Behringer clone,
It's funny. I'm just thinking the way I'm thinking, probably because if I want a drum set, I want to. It's because I want to do house, and that's if I'm gonna make a beat, it's gonna be to do house, and if I don't, it's gonna be just with other with other things, and I don't need a drum set.
And I think you got a good drum machine for that. I think the Impact. I think it sounds a little better than the original one. It doesn't have as many features. You say that the Drum Brute had 12 individual outs. Is that what you said?
No, more than that. It has 17 individual outs, but no, actually, yeah, no, you're right. 12 individual outs.
That's a lot.
It has 17 sounds, but but the 12 physical outs.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 physical outs, and
So-
yeah, and so that's why I was looking at a Behringer XR18 audio interface originally way back, just for the drum brute.
So okay, so take it. Yeah. I was gonna say take it real simple, right? Take it real simple. Like just do enough to handle one individual out, and then add another individual out, and then just if you're dealing with like a lot of things like that, because you'll find yourself suddenly realizing, wow, I need all these extra cables, all these extra effect pedals or whatever I'm gonna send them through, and it's like.
And like that Tascam EQ 4-channel EQ little module thing. It looks like a guitar pedal.
Because a lot of times, some of these drum machines, you may find that whatever you're looking for, you just want a mono output from one drum machine. You want everything, all those sounds coming out of one mono input and then slam through a compressor.
And so that's why I'm reaching for a drum machine instead of maybe my other option that I was thinking of is Eurorack to do it modular drums. And there's just this really easy modules that go from little jack to big XLR, just 4 of them, 4 to 4. So the module is really cheap. That you can get, so where you wouldn't even have to get a special cord. You can just get 4 XLRs, 4 more XLRs, you're good, and get, say, like the Rample module, which is a sample module that's just a little module, but it does 4 sample sounds. Is the SD card. It's got its own lots of drum kits already in it that are amazing and cool, and it has your inputs, and it has 4 outputs or just 1 output.
I think I'd rather have a standalone drum machine, tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's more control, just more playability is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, when it comes to modular, that I definitely don't like trying to do traditional drum programming with modular. You can, and people do,
but it can get large.
Yeah, it's very cumbersome. It really is only good if you're trying to take all of that onto the road as a compact travel kit. Then it could kind of make sense. But otherwise, I mean, like I said, like, the PO, this is not the PO12, of course, but say this was the PO12. As long as you've got reliable sync, right, and you're not having any syncing issues whatsoever, and you have no problem programming the little sucker, because if you have very big fingers, it's not very easy to use. I mean, I get that. And I've got slim fingers, so I'm the perfect candidate for these things. So for me personally, I find programming the PO12 like it's crazy easy to program. I mean, I can just on the fly just get a beat going so fast.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, along those lines, the SQ64 here, it reminds me of a pocket operator. And then when I started using the isomorphic keyboard, it's like, oh yeah, it's back to using the pocket operator.
Oh, that's cool.
It's the same thing, the isomorphic keyboard. And it's just cool. This is just like the PO. It brings back that whole button. Then the buttons are slightly bigger. Just slightly.
Yeah, these buttons are very, very tiny, but just slightly bigger. Yeah, I would love to get an SQ64, but it's probably never going to happen at this point in my studio, because I just don't need it.
No, it's cool, but it actually is cool. The way it mutes, you can all just have it here on your hand, kind of like how people get good at 10 key. The mute is just you do shift over here, but it's like the square of all 16 drum pads, and then the other 3 melodic pads. You can just mute them all, just right there. Boom, mutes with as many fingers as you mute 4 things at once, or just put your whole fist down and mute it all.
These you can't really see, but you've got all of these are mutes. Get my fingers out of the way.
Works.
So you've got 16 tracks, 16 mutes, and
but
you've really got this times 4. So you got 4 different pages you can go through.
Yeah.
And you can actually use some of these tracks to just record MIDI CC information on. So you could have it in literally on another page in the background and whatever. But I mean, I was gonna show you this. I don't know if you can see it well in the camera.
Yeah,
but if you notice, I got knobs. I added crystal clear knobs to all of the potentiometers.
Yeah, Which is important because they light up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not really made to put knobs on. That's why they don't have knobs, not really to cut back on cost, but because there's not really room for them.
So is it nicer or
Yeah, I think it is nicer. The play on turning these things feels so much better. Can I show you what I think I can? Yeah, what these little guys are.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really know what this was until, of course, I thought it'd be easy to get to, but nothing ever really is easy to get to. But those knobs are just these little potentiometers that look like this. Well, that's not a good example. Like this right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like the DFAM and the subharmonicon. I'm going to get some more knobs for the subharmonicon, these 12 ones here. I'm going to, same as the DFAM kit, it's these little ones.
And that would basically be like, in contrast to something like this.
Uh-huh.
Which mounts onto the enclosure.
Uh-huh.
So the importance there is that when you see something like this, not necessarily because these particular ones actually mount to the PCB. You don't really know until you open it up and look.
Right, and it doesn't have the lines for actually grabbing it like that on top.
Yeah, but it's kind of important to know. Like, I guess that you want to assume that they're all PCB mounted. And where that's significant is it means that you don't want to yank on these things very hard.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was something that was attached to the enclosure, like
surface
my guitar pedal, some guitar pedals, not the one that I showed you.
Uh-huh.
The guitar pedals that I'm building, they are surface mount.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can abuse the heck out of those. You can just break them, and then just replace them, and you'll never have any problems, really, as long as you can get in there and replace it. But the PCB mounted ones, as soon as you break one of those, you could be it could be bad,
Yeah, I'm wondering about the Launch Control XL. I finally found some people who did have different knobs on theirs, or saw some people online. So those are the ones that I couldn't take off as easily as the rest of my knobs on things.
Oh,
but I'll try it.
Yeah, I've got some
I'll
tools
be really careful.
For okay. Hey, so yeah, your word's okay. You know what this thing is? You ever seen one of those?
No, it's for teeth.
No, well, actually, yeah, it looks like it in a sense, but it's called a dab tool.
Oh yeah, well. Oh well, I use one of those, but I think it seems like mine's a little smaller than that. But,
okay, so what I do is see if I can see it.
Oh no, you've got it just really close to the camera. I see.
Yeah.
Yes, I just used one this morning, actually.
Okay.
So I just thought it was something else.
So I'm not going to use it on this, of course. These are screwed in. These are screwed in. But like one of my, here we go.
So I'll just use that to get my knobs off.
Okay. So I do a couple of things. I carefully get like a hair dryer and be very careful because you don't want to mar up the surface or anything. But like these Electro-Harmonix knobs, these are notorious, man. I saw a video of what they do. They put these under like a press and they machine press these down. So these things are on so tight, it's unbelievable. So I take this end of the dab tool where the concave is in, right? So you can see very carefully.
And then
I just
up.
And then boom. And it doesn't leave any scarring at all. So like you're like this, and then this rounded part is touching the pedal.
Yeah, because I didn't want to do it with the screwdriver because that was edges.
Yeah.
That is such a good idea.
Oh, I've been working on trying to solve that problem for a year now, trying to figure out, The other thing is this company, if I can pull this off, they're called Rocket Sockets.
Uh-huh.
And Love My Switches, I think, sells them. Synth Cube, I think, sells them. And I think they're maybe about $20 for a set. I've got one of them out right here. They look like this. And you can actually, these are 3D printed. But the guy that makes these, he makes them out of New Zealand, and then there's like other places sell them, resell them. He uses a really, really strong material that, I don't know where to find it. It's not just your normal printing ink. It's reinforced. And these things are like perfect for getting right up against and loosening and tightening without scratching up the surface.
Huh.
Swear by these things.
Wow.
Because if you're doing any kind of repair work for somebody, you can't scratch up their keyboard.
So you put that over it and then do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got like a
so
hex
it
in
goes
here.
straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more time if I can show you here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And you just tighten
And
it
it's
up
just
or
right
loosen it
on
up.
Oh, because it goes on anything that has the hex thing. Okay.
Yeah, and there's so you get a set. So there's about 6 or 7 different sizes.
Mm-hmm. I have this long list of accessories that I need to get next month. So next month is accessories, and of all sorts. I need the SQ64. Okay, I figured out what the dongle thing is. The MIDI dongles. You know how there's TRS-A and TRS-B MIDI dongles for the small.
Yes.
And so all of mine are TRS-B. All the Novation ones are TRS-B.
Why did they do that? It was such a dumb
idea. And so I
It
can't
was.
use my Novation ones. But the one, see, that's why my DFAM wasn't working over MIDI, or I mean, my subharmonicon wasn't working over MIDI at
it's
first.
TRS-A.
Because it's TRS-A, and that's the one I have that's TRS-A. And so I can go out from my SQ64 to something or in from something, but that's the one I have right now that's A. And so I need to get that 3-pack from Bafaco. I've got already in my I'm watching. That's the one I'm gonna get of actual long chords. They're 5-foot chords that with the 3.5 millimeter on one end and the 5-pin DIN on the other.
And
because that'll work with what I've got.
And they're switched to B.
And they're just A. Because I've got Bs. I've got all these Bs, and I don't have As. But I saw the switched ones. Okay. I saw the ones. I saw somebody who said, make your own switched. Ranzi, actually.
I make my own switched. Because that's all it is you've got 2 connectors that matter.
Uh-huh.
And you can think about this on the TRS jack. Don't even think about the 5-pin DIN at all. Keep it real simple.
Uh-huh.
So you've only got, we're only worried about the ring and the tip, not the sleeve. The sleeve goes to ground.
Yeah.
So all they do is if this is the ring and the tip, they just flip the other one around. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And why do they do that? Why do they do that? It's like, was the thought that they didn't want people to confuse audio signals with MIDI signals? It doesn't matter.
Possibly. But it doesn't... It doesn't, It doesn't make the audio signal not work.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, there's this little diode inside that MIDI circuit, which its purpose is to prevent you from accidentally, so that if you do switch those two, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't reverse the current through the op amp, which could potentially damage it.
Yeah.
So everything's already protected, is what I'm trying to say. So there was literally no reason to create a standard like TRS-B. Because it's basically, if you think about it like this, if you run an audio signal through a TRS-B, it's going to invert, it's going to polarity swap your left and right. Why would you want to do that, So that's just, I don't know, it's crazy. So I've solved all my problems over here with that by just kind of making my own cables and utilizing what adapters I already had bought and purchased and so forth. It's super handy too because my new RK006 MIDI hub has all TRS MIDI jacks. So
they sell a lot of great things that way.
It's so cool
options.
To go from like the Micro Freak, the AY3. I really wish the Mega FM also had the TRS MIDI, to tell you the truth, because now I can handle it all.
I still think I'm gonna get there. Doesn't RetroCrits do the whatchamacallit, the 12-volt adapter dongle thingy for synths, for USB host to 12 volt.
I don't know about that one, but they make a lot of really, really just you've got to be kidding me stuff. That is so cool. That dude is
not
a genius.
USB host to 12 volt. What am I saying? Yeah, you can do a power bank. You do your 12 volt through a power bank, right? right? And it's because of this cord. It's a rip cord. It's called a rip cord.
Well, the 12 volt is what's confusing me right now, because we're talking MIDI, and I'm like 12 volts has nothing to do with MIDI.
No, I switched. Sorry.
Okay.
I was talking about something. I'd switched to something else. I'd like the RetroKits also makes that cord that does the power adapter, so that you can go out with a power bank and power your synth with a power bank.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's interesting.
They sell a cord that'll do that.
I keep wanting to do a video on that at some point, you know, because like I can just do this real quick. Right here, I have 3 power banks. And each one of those power banks puts out 5 volts.
Yeah.
Well, I can put those so that they put out 15 volts pretty easily. And then just get like get like a 12 volt regulator and make sure everything's fine. And I can use those to power like my Moog synthesizers if I wanted to.
That's cool. You know how to do that way. That seems weird.
Oh, like this guy. Right? Have I showed you this trick yet? Look, Mom. No battery components. Right? Oh, you can't power this with a battery. Oh, what a bummer. Okay, so what you do is you get one of these, little battery clips and a DC jack, and you wire it in reverse. So now this is a center negative, because you see when you get these, they're always center positive. So now it's center negative. And if I could just plug this in, what was already on. Boom. Oh, hang on. Let me turn it back on so you see the lights. There they go.
Just like the 80s.
Now, what this doesn't have is it doesn't have an internal speaker. I've actually thought about putting my own internal speaker into this thing. It shouldn't be too hard to do.
No.
That might be kind of cool.
Yeah, I watched somebody do that before.
All of these, especially like these 9-volt synthesizers, no problem. The Korgs. I was showing you my Korg Volcas, for example, and I showed you these little adapters.
That would be a way to go.
Boom. And of course, they're all center positive, so you're just you don't have to worry about doing the center negative.
Yeah.
Thing.
But you know me, I'm lazy Joe Schmo consumer. I see a Korg adapter used on reverb, and I'm like, oh, I'll just get a Korg adapter.
As long as you feel that that's money well spent, because you're not going to save money doing what I'm doing. You're not. You're going to spend more money doing what I'm doing. You are. I mean, don't let that. I mean, seriously. Look. I just went and bought. The other day, I spent $25 on 50. $20 on 25. $15 on 25 PT2399 chips. Because maybe there's going to be. I don't think that these chips are going to be. There's going to be shortage on these kinds of chips.
Oh, you should keep. Yeah, that's why you should keep them around, not even use them.
But at the same time, and I have been for the past 2 years. I've been stocking up on ICs. I've got buckets and buckets of ICs. I'm just trying to keep them well stored.
No, you need to hide those. The Chinese government's going to come and
no, they sold them to me. What are you talking about?
Okay.
They're the ones who sold them to me.
Yeah.
I bought them from China. So, anyways, what was my point? Darn, I forgot what the heck the point I was trying to get at. So like I was going to make this thing. This is the RetroKits RK007. He made a 007.
Huh.
And it's a James Bond. It's made I put the little gold on here.
That's cool.
Yeah, all it is, and in fact, it's
almost like Speak and Spell too.
This guy that I'm pulling up here is kind of the same thing. This is my own little MIDI controller that I built, and it's the same principle. But what this does is it allows you to send just a note, like you can just, whatever you dial in a note, you send a MIDI CC program change. It's just a utility tool, is all it is. It's something I can to sling MIDI around. But here's the thing: you're supposed to make these yourself.
That's funny.
He doesn't sell these. He doesn't sell them. He shows you the instructions on how to build them. You're supposed to build them yourself. The guy on Reverb was building these and he sold it for $50, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to buy one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to buy one and just not worry about it. And if I need to, like, you know, because I don't have a 3D. You have to have a 3D printer.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a 3D printer. I've got a friend who does have a 3D printer. Maybe I can get him to help, you know, make those and so forth. But it's going to be years before I know how to do that kind. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm like, I can just have one now and not worry about it. So yeah, it's like you know, DIY. Like any of us that are into this will tell you time and time again. It's like, you know, you do it because you want to learn the secrets. You want to pull back the curtain and see what the Wizard of Oz really is.
That's like the ski resort. It's funny. We always would tell people, you come up here. You don't come up here for the money because you don't make money. You come up here for the life, not the money. Because you're gonna be poor up here, but you're gonna live the life.
Yeah,
that sounds kind of like that, but it's like, no, we're not saving money by doing this. Not necessarily. We are theoretically, yes.
Yeah, it's what I've learned though has been invaluable in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
It's been well worth it. It really has, and I think I have just the right disposition for this as well. I think some people might not, because I don't know. I think people want to believe the magic. You see what I'm saying? I think because it does. It takes away a bit of creativity. It takes away a little bit of your creativity. I think you can get it back, but it's kind of, you have to sort of like, you know, exchange a little bit. And then because as those walls of illusion are taken down, it's harder to find inspiration. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Because you're no longer mesmerized. You know, like, so you're just kind of like, I'm cool. I'm all right. I don't gotta worry about that right now so much, which is not really a good thing if you're wanting to make music.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn between making something maybe like it should be, or like I should want it, and as opposed to then being actually creative and exploratory, and then going with the cool stuff that happens, whatever it is. And so I get stifled by the thinking, oh, well, I'm starting out thinking I'm making a house track, or I'm making a hip hop or something like that, and so it has to be like this, and if it's too much like this, it's not going to be right, you know, or something like that. But there's that, and then there's the other side. It's like where it's just like, no, anything goes. Anything goes. You're just making music. You're making whatever you make comes out. Yeah.
Can you do that? Can you add both of that? So maybe like start out and like, okay, I'm trying to get that traditional house feel, but now I'm going to throw a twist on top of it. So for each track, you've got that cohesive house genre.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
But you've got a twist on each one.
Yeah. That's what we're going for. Hopefully.
Yeah.
A balance.
That's the ticket.
A balance.
I mean, so for me, you know, like I don't like to genre jump. I like to stay, you know, keep my genre boundaries pretty confined. I think, like, you know, I think you're not. Hopefully, for the most part, when you listen to one of my songs, you're never going to. It's never going to be like, "Whoa, what the heck? Where'd that come from?" kind of thing. Like, I generally don't have these crazy genre crossing changes. I don't think. Maybe I do somewhere. But apart from that, though, you know, like I never go for a genre at all. I mean, I just, whatever the music that song is, I just try to enhance that. I just try to keep sweetening that sound, to kind of keep reinforcing whatever it wants to be.
Yeah. The rhythm will actually just, and how you feel about it will take you there.
It can. I've definitely been guilty of just not, of like, I'll come up with a rhythm and I'll just I won't touch it. You know what I mean? Like I probably should go back and then now work on this a little bit more, but because of my philosophy, and when I realized that the drums, it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, I'm getting into starting with rhythm, and just kind of like, I want to be just program a bunch of patterns into a sequencer, and keep on just like piling up the patterns, and then just have a bunch of patterns on there to work with.
Okay, that is what I don't do. If you go for it, try it, do whatever you want to do, of course, you know what I'm saying? But like, see, I would actually say don't do that.
Okay.
Not that, but again, are you asking for my opinion? I don't know that you are.
Always. When
okay.
I say something out loud in the world, I'm always just
Yeah.
like, psh, I
So
appreciate it, whatever you say. It's
I'm of the
cool.
opinion of not doing that.
Uh-huh.
However, that means that you should do that too, because anything I say, you should always do the opposite. Because number one, it's music. There are no rules, and everything is subjective. But the thing that we find though is that some things go together better than other things do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's where I'm really coming at from a lot of this kind of stuff. So in this video that I'm hoping to make really soon, and this may be, depending upon what my moving or non-moving situation may be in the next couple weeks, this may be my 606 day video, which would be kind of perfect, actually, I think.
Cool.
Is the video I was talking to you about.
606, yeah.
And
it's coming up.
Yeah, and it would be perfect for using this and everything.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, is that you can get away with using pre-programmed rhythms, and it's kind of cool in a sense, because like the old, like first drum machines, like the CR78 and the whatever 77 that was that Roland came out with, the Ace Tone or whatever, they had those pre-programmed rhythms in them.
Mm-hmm.
So me, at some point, like I want to take my TT78, which is the CR78 clone, and I want to faithfully have all of those rhythms programmed into it, ready to go. Because you see, that's cool. You know what I mean? That's kind of cool in a way, because those are existing rhythms that are iconic or crappy. You know what I mean? It's like they're just, that would be a meme. I was watching somebody stream last night, no names, and they had this really cool brooding kind of music. Blah, 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 blah. It was like almost like these really cool. It was almost like a horror soundtrack, but not, And then he was trying to find a drum beat, and he kept going through his pre-programmed drum beats, and nothing was working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like you should like listen, man. Where's the accent? Just just find the flow first, and make that your low notes, your bass drum, And then from there, it's like half the rhythm, half the rhythm, half the rhythm, half the rhythm. Half is down, half is up, half is down. Half is up, half is down, half is up, half is down, half is up, half is down, half is up. See, it doesn't matter what your resolution is. Boom, bam, it's back and forth.
As long as you have the back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all you're doing is you're just accenting that back and forth. And so for the first, it's usually like a boom, and then the next is a bap. That's why it's called boom bap. Literally, and that's all you're doing. And but see, it's
and the BPM. Yeah, but see, okay, so genre. When I say genre, I'm not necessarily always even thinking about genre. What I'm aware of is the fact that BPM changes what you can do within an amount of space.
Oh yes.
And then so that makes me go into a genre, choosing a BPM.
So yeah, like when we talk about BPMs, here's something really, 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 really funny. One of the things that I did is I took one of my Rush drum books. If I can grab it here, I don't know. Is this the right one? No, that's stick control. It's got to be this one. Yeah. So one of the things that I did is I took my Rush drum book a long time ago. And here we go. And what I did is I went through and I just wrote down all the BPMs. You can't see it, but it says quarter note equals 81. So Natural Science is 81, for example. Jacob's Ladder is 112. So what I did, Free Will is 150. Just to give you an example. So I just took these numbers and I just started writing them down,
Yeah.
So I said to myself, okay, so I see 108. Why is it not 107? Why is it not 109? Why is it not 106? So when I'm practicing, I'm going to set my metronome to 108. I'm not going to set it to 107 or 106. So I basically started picking certain areas, and I would train myself to those areas. Just say, like, okay, that's what I'm going to go for.
Yeah, there you go.
And so what I'm getting at is that don't wince over 106 versus 108. You may maybe say to yourself, okay, it feels a little fast, and slow it down to 106. Don't worry about it. The real difference is what's the difference between 108 and 148. That's a genre difference right there.
Yeah.
And 108 versus 120 even is that's still pretty close. One thing I like about the pocket operators, battery's off on this one, but they call 80 rap. No, they call it hip hop.
Yeah.
120 techno, I think.
Uh-huh.
And wait. And what was 140? I forgot.
Disco.
Oh, no.
120 is disco and 140 is techno.
40 is techno. Yeah. So, see, those are great. That says so much right there. That helps you understand you know, more about what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I just kind of go with a feel. And for me, establishing BPM is very important to do early on for the kind of music that I'm making. Because when I'm generating patterns from the TT-303, the BPM changes everything.
It just does. It changes everything, so might as well start out with it.
That or if I hear something I like and I like that pattern, then I may say, okay, we're going to slow down.
Yeah, it's cool to change.
I'm going to change the tempo.
I usually change it down. It's funny how some people like to compose slow just because it's easier maybe and stuff, but I don't necessarily do that. What I tend to do is I'm starting where I think it should be, and usually it's too fast for me, and I keep on having to slow it down a little bit and a little bit.
That's interesting. For me, it's that composing, but none of that matters to me. It only matters if I'm performing. And if I'm performing, I may have to slow it down and learn it and then speed it up.
Yeah.
It's bad to do it that way.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
Because you can't feel it the same.
You can't feel it the same. So you know who Vinny Colaiuta is? He's like the best drummer in the world. I mean, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty that are, on his level, but he is just unreal. And I saw him do a clinic back in 2000-ish, 2002 or something, maybe late 90s. I think it was early 2000s. He was doing a clinic in Nashville with this big sound stage area and so forth. And I mean, and this is snob city, man. You know what I'm saying? You walk into, there's nothing but a bunch of drummers who just hate each other. And you can just feel it in the air. You know what I mean? Just everybody's just I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. Oh, I want to be as good as Vinny. It's just oh wow, this place feels really, really sick and diseased. And I was there with my two guitar players, my bass player and my guitar player in my band, and I think another friend of ours. And this was so wild because Vinny was up there playing, and I'm a brutal realist. You know what I mean? It's I feel things, and I'm looking around, I'm looking at all these people, and just I'm and Vinny, Vinny is sucking. I mean, I could just see it. He's just, he's not saying anything. He's just doing all these rudiments and all these fills across the drums, and it's impressive. He's not saying anything. You know what I mean? And I'm looking around, everybody's just going wow, yeah, man.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
it's all about being there. Yeah.
No, I'm nobody gets what's going on right now. And
I feel that way. It's like being in a chat of a larger streamer, you know?
Right. So you may say to yourself, well, it's just you, Jeff. That's just your perception, right? And that's exactly what I was thinking. Really, seriously. That's what I was thinking. I'm wow, man, I'm just a jerk. And then all of a sudden, Vinny just stops playing. He just stops playing. And he just grabs the mic and goes, I ain't feeling this. He said, y'all mind if I just talk with y'all? I don't feel like playing right now. And I was wow. And everybody was just kind of well, sure. What? Yeah. And so he just grabs a microphone, walks around to the front of the set, lights a cigarette, sits down Indian style with his legs crossed. And he's just I'm tired. I was wow, man, this is a real clinic. So he had just gotten off with Sting. He just quit Sting. He quit. He was left the band. I can't remember the details of what happened, but he was I was just I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done with that kind of thing and so forth. And here's where I'm going with all of this is that the one thing that he was here's what I'm going to tell y'all. Here's what you're going to take away from this. Next time you're recording drums in a session, and you've got the groove going on, and some producer comes in and tells you to slow the tempo down to 106, you tell him to go to hell. You say, I'm the drummer. I'm establishing the groove. Okay? If I'm missing any beats or if I'm making mistakes, then that's one thing, but I'm not. The groove feels good. We're leaving it here.
Yeah, I'm not your slave.
Well, It's
Well.
not that. It's not, no,
I
you
know.
see-
I
Yeah,
can
no,
see
no,
how
no,
that
no.
could happen. That dynamic.
No, but I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not about being a prima donna even.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not about like I'm the star and I'm the. It's like you're the drummer.
Yeah, you trust me to do that to do this, to try to feel this.
You, as a drummer, not even see what Vinny was saying is that not even I can easily switch from 106 to 108 like that. It don't happen. It's like, okay, well, give me an hour now to adjust. You see what I'm saying? The human body
yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. You
Yeah.
get the only way we as drummers can do what we do is because we're trained
getting in the
into
groove.
that. We're like, yeah, and as soon as we nudge it just a little bit.
Yeah, I
You
totally
know?
get that. Yeah, it's like yeah.
Yeah, so but here
That's
in
how
this
we
world,
keep a beat.
right. So these are the things that that people, I think, that they coming into this don't understand about programming drums, is that you're not dealing with the real drummer. And if you were dealing with the real drummer, you would approach things a lot differently, because that real drummer would be screaming and yelling at you. It would be like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. No, I'm playing this fill, and I don't care. You can, or I mean, it's like, it's so funny,
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, well, just keep playing this beat and don't change. No, I can't, because a drummer really can't do that, you see.
Yeah.
A young drummer, that's one of the reasons why we're changing all the time, is because just to keep a simple beat. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm speeding up. Oh, I can't help it. I'm sorry, I'm going faster. I can't. There's nothing I can do about it. I have to keep busy, or I speed up. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping that I can get back soon into being a drummer again, finally at last, and
why
feeling
don't you
comfortable on a tactile thing that's not a drum set, but it just makes the sounds I want, and it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome.
Why don't you get a little cheap electronic drum set? Like not to perform with, but just off the side somewhere, just to I
thought about pads. I thought about pads with sticks would be cool.
Yeah, but you need to get your feet involved is the thing. And you just, it's just not, you're not.
I don't care about that anymore so much.
I mean, okay, number one, I get that. But like, it was
frustrating because I was left-handed.
Oh, well, I'm left-handed.
Yeah, exactly. I know. You know what I'm talking
frustrated because
about.
my hair's too long right now.
But you powered through it and found the ways to do it. You got it.
Well, I got lucky and I had like people who wanted me to play with them in their bands, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it was most of the problem with being a left-handed drummer was playing live shows with other bands.
Mm-hmm.
Only one time did I have a situation where I went into a studio and they didn't have a left-handed drum set up for me. But that was a sabotage. I was sabotaged in that when they were trying to get rid of me. Well, at least the lead singer was trying to get rid of me, and he did.
Uh-huh.
That happened.
Were they making comments when you changed the drum set?
Okay, so I mean, I don't want to get into too many details, but the leader of the band was not smart. He was from Nashville, and me and the bass player were from Murfreesboro.
Uh-huh.
And we were long-running friends, the bass player and I. And the singer was a great singer, by the way. It's like his only problem is that he was just in too much of a hurry, and he didn't have enough experience to really know when people were ripping him off. Mm. So my friend and I, we come from Murfreesboro with a college kind of campus thing, and we know lots of people. There's a whole photography department. There's plenty of people that will take your picture for free. So we could have done our band promo pics. What are they called? I forget what that's called. We could have done all of that for free. But no, he goes and he hires some professional because they're professional, and you spend all this money, you're going to get a better product, right? They totally ripped him off. Wouldn't let him have the negatives, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you got to pay for the copyrights too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, ridiculous. So for the studio session, we're like, hey, same thing. We could go over here to the college and do it all for free. You just have to have some compromises. It's not going to sound as good as you want it to, but hey, it's a demo. Does it really matter? And this was the 90s anyways.
Uh-huh.
Nobody could really do this at home. So he had an old friend of his who was a bandmate, and they had a falling out. And I guess I can disclose this much. They dosed him with psychedelic drugs. It's like, oh my God, that's like assault or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That
Right?
could have bad repercussions.
It did have they scared the hell out of him when they did it too. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's never, talk about those people ever again. That's who's gonna record us. I'm like, so you're gonna go back to your ex-guitar player who did this to you, and he's gonna record us? Really? Yeah. Well, he's giving us a great discount, and he's charging you money for it.
Yeah.
He owes you a favor, man. So we get in there, and it's like, I'm like, well, I'm left-handed. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. We're not going to use your drums. Well, no, great, fine. Okay, but I'm left-handed. Remember that. Okay, so we get there, and it's like everything's set up right-handed. Then it's all mic'd and everything, like ready to go, sound checked. Oh, you sound checked it for me? How do you know how I hit the drums? Right? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So
oh my God.
it was awful. The hi-hat action was so terrible. It was messing with my timing and everything. And once I got everything flipped over, and the whole thing was just a complete disaster. It was an absolute complete disaster. And then I was about ready to, I can't even remember how it ended. I just remember there was a moment where the singer was sitting down next to me talking to me. I was like, wow, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? And he's just like, well, just understand that not everybody can do this, and you're not good enough to be in the band, and yada, yada. He was giving me that kind of spiel. We had a live show the next week. Now, we also had a new guitar player. I'm trying to give you the bridge version, but this new guitar player came in. He was the one that was trying to get rid of me. It turns out. He was the one that was trying to get rid of me. He was also trying to get rid of the bass player. So he was like trying to basically come in and get rid of us and then bring in other people into the band.
Yeah, that's always the thing.
That's an issue. That's a case, right? So he's talking all this crap to the singer, and for whatever reason, like this other guy hates me from the get-go anyway. So he's like, already sabotaging me. We play this live show the following weekend. I played a perfect show. I killed it, man. I was so mad, and I was just made sure that I just completely destroyed him. Me and the bass player, we nailed it. But the guitar player was awful. He was terrible. Like, he never learned the songs. And he's one of these guys who comes in, yeah, I'm just going to turn this into my band kind of thing. I'll hang out and waste enough time until we, kind of whatever. And then after that, of course, I quit. Or I was fired. I think I was fired, and I was like, I was going to play this one show because we already had it booked. And that was basically when I was done. I was just like, just drop the mic kind of situation. The show was done. And I was like, you just fired this. Bye-bye. Now, granted, I am a better live drummer than a studio drummer, It was just a demo in the first place, man. See, everybody goes into recording their demos thinking that they're recording the big hit album. This is the album that we're going to... If it's not perfect, nobody's ever going to sign us. Nobody's ever going to sign us because we don't have an audience. We don't have a following, man. We got to get a following first, before we have somebody from a record label come out and see our show.
Yeah,
you
definitely was like that.
Perfect performance, and you got to have a draw. You got to have people that are cheering you on when you and. So yeah, going forward, once the pandemic is over, when we get our bands going again, just advice for anybody listening.
Advice to not get into a band, yeah, pretty much.
And
that's why I do this stuff. That's why I want to be a one-man band with backing instruments.
Right, because dealing with other people is very, very, very difficult, and we're all musicians, and we're all touchy-feely people, and you put us all in a room together, and it's just like, wow, you have to have a leader.
Yeah, if I am going to be a part of something, I'm going to control the whole thing. So might as well not have anybody else around.
I'm fine being the drummer. I'm fine supporting, doing my job as the drummer and not as the leader of the band. I'm perfectly happy with that. That's kind of one of the reasons why I am a drummer, to tell you the truth.
That's cool. It's hard being a drummer. Ask Ringo.
Hey, Ringo puts on some of the best live shows. I've seen him twice. Two of the best live shows I've ever seen in my life. I think we already talked about that, though, right? Did we talk about that last time?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't
but
wanna,
yeah, I agree. He's awesome. But yeah, I gotta go. I gotta pee really bad.
Wow, we've been on for 3 hours,
but
man.
it's been good.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for
real
having
good.
me once again.
Yeah,
I'm excited
yeah.
you got the peak. I'm excited you're getting the impact.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you're gonna
Well,
love it.
I'll save up. Maybe in a few months. I'll get me the impact. But I've
Oh, okay. I thought you
obviously
already ordered it.
obviously I've got enough to do until then too.
Don't we all? Don't we all? I mean, what did I do? I get the subharmonicon, then I double down with the Pico System 3 and a Mega FM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like this right now in terms of like trying to learn these synthesizers.
Yeah. I'm in hog heaven with the peak. It's just like, oh yeah, I didn't know synthesizers could be this good, but they can.
That is
But
awesome.
anyway, I enjoyed having a chat, and as always, it's always nice to hear from you and
Likewise.
and all that.
Sorry for digital versus analog controversy.
No, I think that's the thing is sometimes we can just get really I think he got just really fired up about a certain subject that you brought up, and sometimes people just can't talk about it and don't want to talk about it and just leave the situation. That would have been great without all the insults, though. That's all I have to say.
Well, as long as he was insulting digital. I mean, digital does deserve a lot of insults. I'm not going to
No, but then he insults you impersonally, and that's not cool, just because you're mad. And we get it that it's just because you're mad about something in your life, and that's cool.
Because I'm crazy mad, or because he was upset?
No, because he was mad. I don't know. I don't know what's up with him, but I can understand that sometimes things happen. But maybe we can have
a hotline. I got
maybe
a
we can have an
digital distress
impact.
hotline. Digital distress hotline. You can call at any time.
Yeah, but
can
I
hash
like
it
to
out.
I like to just be loud and actually state my opinion and stuff like that instead. But yeah, it's cool to leave the discussion.
Here we go.
Sometimes.
Analog cake, digital icing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's a Korg EA1 on top of a Mini Moog Model D.
But you better not put a cherry on top. I'll throw that away.
Oh, what would that be? Yeah.
No.
That'd be
The snare.
Drum,
No.
the snare drum. The dirty snare drum. It's awesome.
All right.
Thank you
Yeah.
once again.
Yeah. Thank
Have a
you,
great
and thank you for everyone who showed up. I don't know if there's anyone in the chat right now, but thank you all for sticking around. All right. Take it easy.
See you next time. Bye-bye.